Welcome to tonight's story. Before we dive in, let me tell you, this one's about betrayal, forbidden love, and a woman who turned rejection into revolution. If you've ever been underestimated, cast aside, or told you weren't enough, stick around until the end. You won't believe where this goes. And hey, drop a comment below telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing where you all are tuning in. Now hit that like button, get comfortable, and let's begin. The claiming ceremony was supposed to be the night Kyalira Thorne became Luna. She stood in the center of the grand stone courtyard, surrounded by hundreds of pack members whose eyes glittered in the torchlight. The air smelled of pine and smoke, the ancient scent of their kind. Above her, the full moon hung fat and silver, a witness to promises that had been whispered in darkness and sealed with blood. Her dress was the color of midnight, woven with silver thread that caught the firelight. She'd chosen it carefully. Modest enough to honor tradition, beautiful enough to remind him why he'd chosen her in the first place. Or so she'd thought. Alpha Corvin Blackwood stood at the opposite end of the courtyard, his broad shoulders draped in ceremonial furs, his jaw set in that familiar line of quiet command. He was everything an alpha should be, strong, decisive, feared by enemies, and revered by his own. And for 3 years he had been hers. 3 years of stolen kisses in the forest. 3 years of promises made under stars. 3 years of believing she would stand beside him as his equal, his partner, his Luna. But tonight, something was wrong. Corvin's eyes weren't on her. They were on the woman standing just behind the Elder Council, a slender figure with pale gold hair and eyes like winter frost. Kyalira didn't recognize her. She wasn't from the Blackwood pack. That much was certain. "Who is she?" Kyalira whispered to her younger sister, Mira, who stood at her side. Mira's face had gone pale. "I don't know, but Kyle, I have a bad feeling." The drums began, deep, rhythmic, ancient. Elder Greaves stepped forward, his voice booming across the courtyard. "Tonight, under the light of the moon, Mother, our Alpha will claim his Luna. The bond will be forged. The future of the Blackwood pack will be sealed." Kyalira's heart hammered in her chest. This was it, the moment she'd been preparing for her entire life. She took a step forward. Corvin didn't move. Elder Greaves gestured toward her. "Kyalira Thorne, daughter of the hunt, born of loyal blood, step forward and present yourself to your Alpha." She moved through the crowd, her head held high, her hands steady despite the tremor that had begun deep in her bones. Every eye was on her. She could feel their expectation, their approval. The Thorne family had served the Blackwood pack for generations. This union was right. It was meant to be. She stopped 3 paces from Corvin. He still wouldn't look at her. "Corvin," her voice was soft, meant only for him. "What's wrong?" His jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought she saw regret flicker across his face. But when he finally met her eyes, there was nothing there but cold resolve. "I'm sorry, Kyalira." The words were quiet, almost gentle, and they destroyed her. "What?" Elder Greaves frowned. "Alpha Blackwood, the ceremony—" "I reject the claim," Corvin said, his voice ringing out across the courtyard. Silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. Kyalira's mind went blank. She couldn't have heard him correctly. This wasn't possible. They had planned this. He had promised her. "You... what?" Corvin's expression didn't change. "I reject Kyalira Thorne as my Luna. The bond will not be forged." The courtyard erupted. Voices rose in confusion, in shock, in anger. Somewhere behind her, Mira gasped. Kyalira's mother let out a broken sound that might have been a sob. But Kyalira herself stood frozen, her body refusing to process what was happening. "Corvin, please." She reached for him. He stepped back. That single motion, that tiny, deliberate retreat, shattered something inside her. "Why?" Her voice cracked. She hated how small it sounded, how desperate. For the first time, emotion flickered across Corvin's face. Guilt, pain. But he buried it quickly, his alpha mask sliding back into place. "Because I've found my true mate." The words hit her like a physical blow. "You're... what?" Corvin turned and extended his hand toward the golden-haired woman. She stepped forward with the grace of someone who had been waiting for this moment, who had expected it. "This is Celine Ashford," Corvin said, daughter of the Northern Ridge Pack, and my destined Luna. Kalira's vision blurred. Her chest felt like it was caving in. You said you didn't believe in destined mates. You said we chose our own bonds. I was wrong. 3 years of her life, of her heart, of her future. Gone. Erased in a single sentence. Alpha Blackwood, Elder Greaves said carefully, the Thorn family has served this pack with honor for— I am aware of their service, Corvin interrupted, and Kalira will continue to have a place in this pack, as a member, just not as Luna. Kalira felt something hot and sharp rise in her throat. Humiliation, rage, grief so deep she thought it might drown her. But she refused to cry. Not here. Not in front of all of them. She lifted her chin, her voice steady despite the earthquake happening inside her. I don't want your pity, Corvin, and I don't want a place in your pack. His eyes widened slightly. Kalira, you want her? Kalira gestured toward Celine. Take her. Build your perfect future. I hope it's everything you deserve. She turned on her heel and walked, not ran, walked, through the crowd that parted for her like water, through the whispers that followed her like ghosts, through the courtyard gates and into the forest beyond, where the darkness finally swallowed her whole. Only then did she let herself break. She collapsed against a tree, her legs giving out, her chest heaving with sobs she could no longer contain. 3 years. He had looked her in the eyes and promised her, and he had thrown it all away for some stranger, some destined mate he didn't even know. Bastard, she choked out. Lying, coward, bastard. Strong words for a woman who just lost everything. Kalira's head snapped up. A man stood 10 feet away, half hidden in shadow, tall, broad-shouldered, eyes like cold steel that reflected the moonlight. She scrambled to her feet, her hand instinctively going to the small blade at her hip. Who are you? He stepped into the light, and Kalira's blood turned to ice. Darian Frost, alpha of the Frostborn Pack, enemy of the Blackwood territory, and the most dangerous man in the northern wilds. What are you doing here? She demanded, her voice shaking despite her attempt to sound strong. Darian tilted his head, studying her with unsettling intensity. I came to watch the claiming ceremony. Your alpha was kind enough to invite several neighboring packs. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. I must say, it was far more entertaining than I expected. Humiliation burned through her. Get out of my sight. Gladly, but first I have a question. I don't care how badly do you want him to regret what he just did? Kalira froze. Darian took a step closer. That's what you're thinking right now, isn't it? Not about heartbreak, not about loss, about revenge. About making him realize he just made the worst mistake of his life. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The truth was written all over her face. Darian's smile widened. I can give you that. I can give you power, position, and a front row seat to his suffering. All you have to do is say yes. To what? Come with me. Leave the Blackwood Pack tonight. Become part of mine. Kalira's mind reeled. You're insane. Your pack and mine have been enemies for decades. They would never accept me. They'll accept what I tell them to accept. I'm the alpha. Why? She shook her head, trying to make sense of this. Why would you do this? Darian's expression grew serious. Because Corvin Blackwood is a fool, and I have no patience for fools who waste valuable resources. He looked her up and down, not in the way men usually did, not with lust or appraisal, but with calculation. You're strong, intelligent, loyal, everything a Luna should be. He threw you away like garbage. I won't make the same mistake. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you didn't cry in front of them. I know you walked out of that courtyard with your head high. I know that right now you're more angry than broken. And anger, Kalira Thorn, is far more useful than grief. He extended his hand. So what's it going to be? Are you going to slink back to the Blackwood Pack and live the rest of your life as a reminder of his rejection? Or are you going to walk into enemy territory on my arm and make him burn with regret? Kalira stared at his hand. This was madness. The Frostborn Pack was brutal, ruthless. They had killed Blackwood warriors in border disputes. They controlled territory through fear and violence. Darian Frost himself was rumored to be a monster. cold, calculating, and utterly without mercy. Going with him would mean betrayal. It would mean war. It would mean throwing away everything she'd ever known. But staying meant watching Corvin build a life with someone else, meant smiling through her humiliation, meant pretending her heart hadn't just been ripped out and crushed in front of everyone she'd ever cared about. Kalira looked back toward the courtyard, where torchlight still flickered and the sounds of confused celebration drifted through the trees. Corvin had made his choice. Now she would make hers. She took Darian's hand. His grip was cold, strong, unyielding. "Smart girl," he murmured. And just like that, Kalira Thorne became a traitor to her own blood. The journey to Frostborn territory took 3 days. Darian traveled with a small contingent of warriors, 6 men and 2 women, all of whom looked at Kalira with varying degrees of suspicion and hostility. She didn't blame them. If the situation had been reversed, if Corvin had brought a Frostborn wolf into Blackwood lands, she would have reacted the same way. But Darian didn't seem concerned. He rode at the front, his posture relaxed, his attention split between the path ahead and Kalira, who rode beside him in uncomfortable silence. On the second night, as they made camp in a clearing near a frozen stream, one of the warriors, a scarred man named Garrett, finally spoke what everyone was thinking. "This is a mistake, Alpha." Darian didn't look up from the fire he was building. "Your objection is noted. She's Blackwood. Her entire family has fought us for generations. You really think she's going to be loyal to us?" "I think," Darian said calmly, "that she's exactly where she wants to be." "Isn't that right, Kalira?" All eyes turned to her. Kalira met Garrett's gaze without flinching. "I have no loyalty to the Blackwood pack anymore. Corvin Blackwood made sure of that." "So you say. But what happens when he comes for you, when he realizes what he lost and tries to take you back?" "He won't." "You sound awfully sure of that." "I am." Kalira's voice hardened. "Because I know him. And I know that his pride won't allow him to admit he made a mistake. He'll justify it. He'll convince himself that choosing Celine was the right call, and he'll never look back." Garrett snorted. "And you're okay with that?" "No, I'm furious, but I'm also done letting him control my life." The warrior studied her for a long moment, then shook his head and walked away muttering something about Alpha's funeral. Darian chuckled softly. "You find this funny?" Kalira asked. "I find you interesting. Most people would have crumbled by now, but you're still fighting. What choice do I have?" "There's always a choice. You could have begged him to take you back. You could have thrown yourself at his feet and played the victim. Instead, you chose the harder path, the one that requires actual courage." Kalira looked at him carefully. "Why are you really doing this? And don't tell me it's because I'm some valuable resource. There are plenty of strong wolves in the world. Why me?" Darian was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. "Because I know what it's like to be discarded. To be told you're not enough. And I know what it takes to survive that kind of rejection." He met her eyes. "You remind me of someone I used to know. Someone who deserved better than what she got." "Who?" "My sister." Kalira blinked. She hadn't expected that. "I didn't know you had a sister." "I don't. Not anymore." He turned back to the fire. "She died 5 years ago, killed by her own mate when she tried to leave him." The air between them shifted, became heavier, more real. "I'm sorry," Kalira said quietly. "Don't be. Just survive. And when Corvin Blackwood realizes what he lost, make sure he knows exactly where to find you, standing beside the Alpha he fears most." Kalira felt something strange stir in her chest. Not quite trust, not quite alliance, but maybe understanding. "I can do that," she said. Darian smiled. "Good, because we're almost home, and things are about to get very interesting." Frostborn territory was nothing like Blackwood lands. Where the Blackwood pack had built their settlement in a lush river valley surrounded by dense forest, the Frostborn had carved their home into the side of a mountain. The buildings were made of dark stone and timber, designed to withstand brutal winters and enemy attacks. Everything about it screamed strength, survival, refusal to yield. As they rode through the main gates, Kalira felt dozens of eyes on her, Warriors training in the courtyard stopped to stare. Women carrying supplies paused mid-step. Children peeked out from doorways with wide, curious eyes. She kept her spine straight and her expression neutral. "Ignore them," Darian murmured. "They're just curious. Give it a few days and you'll be old news." Somehow I doubt that. They dismounted in front of the largest building, a longhouse that served as both the Alpha's residence and the Pack's central meeting hall. Darian handed his reins to a young boy who looked terrified and excited in equal measure. "Spread the word," Darian told him. "Council meeting in 1 hour. Everyone attends." The boy nodded and sprinted off. Darian turned to Kaelira. "You should rest, clean up. The next few hours are going to be intense." "I'd rather get it over with." "Suit yourself. But fair warning, my council isn't as accommodating as I am." He wasn't exaggerating. An hour later, Kaelira stood in the center of the longhouse, surrounded by 15 of the highest-ranking members of the Frostborn Pack. They sat in a semicircle around her, their faces ranging from openly hostile to coldly skeptical. At the head of the table sat Darian, flanked by his beta, a woman named Alara, with silver-streaked hair and eyes that could cut glass, and his head warrior, a massive man called Thorn, who looked like he could snap Kaelira in half without breaking a sweat. "This is insane," Alara said flatly. "You brought a Blackwood wolf into our territory, into our home. What were you thinking?" "I was thinking," Darian replied calmly, "that we just acquired a significant strategic advantage." "Strategic advantage? She's a liability. Her family has killed our warriors. Her pack controls half the northern hunting grounds. And you expect us to just accept her?" "I expect you to trust my judgment. With all due respect, Alpha, your judgment has been questionable lately." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Darian's voice remained even, but there was steel beneath it. "Explain." Alara didn't back down. "You've been distracted, unfocused, and now you bring home the rejected mate of our greatest rival and expect us to believe this is some brilliant strategic move? It looks like impulse. It looks like weakness." "Then you're not looking hard enough." Thorn leaned forward. "What's the play here, Darian? Why her? Why now?" Darian gestured toward Kaelira. "Ask her yourself." All eyes turned to her. Kaelira swallowed hard. She'd known this was coming. But standing in front of these people, these warriors who had every reason to hate her, was more terrifying than she'd expected. "I have information," she said, forcing her voice to stay steady, "about Blackwood defenses, patrol routes, supply lines, weaknesses in their territory that only someone who grew up there would know." "And you're just going to hand that over?" Thorn asked skeptically. "Out of the goodness of your heart?" "No, out of spite." A few council members chuckled. Others frowned. "Spite is a weak motivator," Alara said. "It burns hot and fast and then leaves you empty." "Maybe. But right now it's all I have, and it's strong enough to make me useful to you." Alara studied her for a long moment. "What happens when Corvin comes for you? When he sends warriors to bring you home? Will you fight them? Kill your own people?" Kaelira hesitated. She hadn't thought that far ahead, hadn't let herself imagine that scenario. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I know I'm not going back. Whatever that means." Convenient answer. It's an honest one. The room fell silent. Kaelira could feel the weight of their judgment pressing down on her. These people didn't trust her. They probably never would. And she couldn't blame them, but she refused to apologize for surviving. "Enough," Darian said finally. "Kaelira stays. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly. Outside, where we settle disputes like wolves." No one moved. Darian smiled thinly. "That's what I thought." Council dismissed. The wolves filed out one by one, most of them shooting Kaelira looks ranging from suspicion to outright contempt. Only Alara paused at the door. "You better be worth the chaos you just brought into our lives," she said quietly. "I plan to be." Alara's expression softened slightly, almost imperceptibly. "Good, because if you're not, I'll be the first one to throw you out." Then she was gone. Kaelira let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Darian approached her, his expression unreadable. "You did well." "I barely said anything." Exactly. You didn't grovel, didn't make excuses. You stood your ground. He tilted his head. They'll respect that. Eventually. And in the meantime? In the meantime, you survive. You prove yourself. You show them you're more than just Corvin Blackwood's cast-off. The words stung, but Kalyra nodded. Where do I start? Training. Tomorrow at dawn. If you're going to live here, you need to learn how we fight, how we hunt, how we survive. He paused. And you need to stop thinking like a Blackwood wolf. That version of you is dead. Time to figure out who you are now. Kalyra looked around the empty longhouse, at the stone walls and the cold firelight, at the unfamiliar banners and the weapons mounted on the walls. This wasn't home, but maybe it could be. I'll be ready, she said. Darian smiled. I know you will. The first week in Frostborn territory was brutal. Training began before sunrise and didn't end until long after dark. Darian had assigned her to work with Thorn, who seemed to take personal pleasure in pushing her past her limits. Again, he barked as Kalyra struggled to her feet for the 10th time. Her entire body ached. Her knuckles were bloody. Her legs felt like they might give out at any second. But she got up. You're favoring your left side, Thorn said, circling her like a predator. That's going to get you killed. I'm tired. Give me a minute. The enemy won't give you a minute. They'll see that weakness and exploit it. Now fix your stance and come at me again. Kalyra gritted her teeth and lunged. Thorn sidestepped easily and swept her legs out from under her. She hit the ground hard, the air rushing out of her lungs. Predictable, Thorn said. You're fighting like someone who's been protected her whole life, like someone who's never actually had to survive a real battle. I've fought. Sparring matches don't count. Border skirmishes with rules and surrender don't count. I'm talking about real combat, life or death, kill or be killed. Have you ever experienced that? Kalyra pushed herself up, her pride stinging more than her bruises. No. Then you're not a warrior yet. You're just someone who thinks they are. He offered her a hand. But we can change that, if you're willing to do the work. She took his hand and let him pull her up. I'm willing. Good. Because if you're going to survive here, really survive, you need to be twice as good as everyone else. You need to prove you belong, and that means pushing past pain, past exhaustion, past everything you thought you were capable of. Kalyra wiped blood from her lip and raised her fists. Then let's go again. What? Something that might have been respect flickered across Thorn's face. All right, Blackwood, show me what you've got. By the end of the second week, Kalyra could barely remember what life had been like before Frostborn. The days blurred together, training, eating, collapsing into exhausted sleep, then waking up to do it all over again. But she was getting stronger, faster, better, and she was starting to understand why the Frostborn pack had survived for so long in such a harsh environment. They didn't just fight. They adapted. They learned. They evolved. She was learning to do the same. One evening, as she sat by the fire cleaning her weapons, Alara approached her. Mind if I sit? Kalyra gestured to the empty space beside her. It's your territory. Alara settled down with a quiet grace that belied her age. For a while, neither of them spoke. They just sat in comfortable silence, watching the flames dance. You're doing better, Alara said finally. Thorn says you're not completely hopeless. High praise. From him, it is. Alara smiled slightly. He doesn't usually train outsiders. The fact that he's working with you at all means Darian really does see something in you. Or he just enjoys watching me get beaten up every day. That too. Alara's expression grew more serious. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you regret it? Leaving everything behind? Kalyra thought about that. About her family, her friends, the life she'd built in Blackwood territory. Sometimes, she admitted. Mostly late at night when I can't sleep and everything hurts. But then I remember standing in that courtyard. I remember the way he looked at me, like I was an inconvenience, a problem to be solved, and I remember how small I felt. She looked at Alara. I never want to feel that way again. Good, because the moment you start second-guessing yourself, the moment you start thinking about going back, that's when you lose. I'm not going back. I believe you. Ilara stood and dusted off her pants. For what it's worth, I think you made the right choice. Corvin Blackwood is a decent alpha, but he's also a coward. He should have been honest with you from the beginning. He should have given you the respect you deserved. Instead, he humiliated me in front of everyone. Yes, he did. And that says far more about him than it does about you. Ilara paused. Just be careful with Darian. He's not like other alphas. He's complicated, and he carries burdens that would break most people. What kind of burdens? The kind he doesn't talk about. The kind that make him dangerous, to others and to himself. She met Kaelira's eyes. If you're going to stay here, you need to understand that. You need to be prepared for what that means. Before Kaelira could respond, a shout echoed across the courtyard. Alpha! Riders approaching from the south! Ilara's expression hardened. That would be your old pack, right on schedule. Kaelira's blood turned cold. They're here? Did you really think Corvin would just let you go? He's the one who rejected you, but you're the one who left with his enemy. That's a political nightmare for him. Of course he'd send someone to bring you back. I'm not going. Then you better be ready to fight, because they're not going to take no for an answer. Kaelira stood, her hand instinctively going to the blade at her hip. Her heart pounded in her chest, but not from fear, from anticipation. Because this was it. This was the moment where she proved to them, to herself, to everyone, that she had truly chosen a new path. And she wasn't turning back. Not now. Not ever. The riders came at dusk, when the light turned the snow-covered peaks blood red and shadows stretched like claws across the frozen ground. Kaelira stood on the ramparts beside Darian, watching as 6 wolves in Blackwood colors emerged from the tree line. Even from this distance, she recognized the lead rider, Marcus Thorne, her uncle. You know him, Darian said. It wasn't a question. He's family. Does that change anything? Kaelira's jaw tightened. No. Below in the courtyard, Frostborn warriors had already assembled, forming a loose perimeter around the gates. Thorne stood at the center, his massive arms crossed over his chest, his expression carved from stone. Ilara waited beside him, one hand resting casually on the hilt of her blade. They're not here for a friendly visit, Ilara called up to Darian. 6 riders means this is official pack business. Let them in, Darian replied, but keep the archers ready. Kaelira's stomach twisted. You're going to let them inside? Why not? We have nothing to hide, and I'm curious to hear what Corvin's message is. He glanced at her. Unless you'd rather I turn them away. I don't know what I want. Then stay silent and let me handle it. Unless they ask for you directly, then you speak your truth, whatever that is. The gates opened with a groan of iron and timber. The Blackwood riders entered slowly, their horses' breath steaming in the cold air. They were heavily armed, swords, bows, daggers, but they kept their weapons sheathed, a gesture of diplomacy, however thin. Marcus dismounted first. He was a tall man, lean and weathered, with gray streaking through his dark hair. Kaelira had always thought of him as steady, reliable, the kind of man who kept his word and expected others to do the same. The disappointment in his eyes when he spotted her on the ramparts felt like a knife between her ribs. Darian Frost, Marcus called out, his voice carrying across the courtyard. I come bearing a message from Alpha Corvin Blackwood. Then deliver it, Darian said, his tone bored, though I suspect I already know what it says. Marcus reached into his coat and withdrew a sealed letter. One of the Frostborn warriors took it and brought it up to the ramparts. Darian broke the seal and read in silence, his expression unchanging. When he finished, he handed the letter to Kaelira. She read quickly, her anger building with every word. The letter was formal, polite, and utterly infuriating. Corvin demanded her immediate return, citing pack law and family obligation. He called her departure an impulsive mistake driven by understandable emotion. He promised there would be no punishment if she came back willingly. He even offered to find her a suitable match within the Blackwood pack, someone of appropriate rank and temperament, as if she were a problem to be managed, a resource to be allocated. Well, Darian asked quietly, what do you want to do? Kaelira tore the letter in half, then in half again. She walked to the edge of the rampart and let the pieces fall like snow into the courtyard below. Marcus flinched as if she'd struck him. I believe, Darian said, his voice carrying an edge of amusement, that's your answer. Kalira. Marcus stepped forward, his expression pained. Please, think about what you're doing. This isn't you. You're not the kind of person who betrays her family. I didn't betray anyone, Kalira called down. Corvin made his choice. I made mine. You made a mistake, one that can still be corrected if you come home now. The Blackwood Pack isn't my home anymore. It's been your home for 23 years. Your parents are there, your sister, your friends, everything you've ever known. You're going to throw all of that away because a man hurt your pride? This isn't about pride. Then what is it about? Kalira gripped the stone wall so hard her knuckles turned white. It's about refusing to live in a place where I'm seen as a consolation prize, where I'm expected to smile and pretend my heart wasn't broken in front of everyone I've ever cared about, where I'm supposed to be grateful for whatever scraps of dignity Corvin decides to throw my way. So instead you run to his enemy? You ally yourself with the pack that's killed our warriors? That's your solution? It's my choice, mine. And for the first time in my life, I'm making it for myself, not for the pack, not for tradition, not for some bond that was supposed to mean everything but turned out to mean nothing. Marcus shook his head slowly. You sound like a stranger. Good. Maybe I needed to become one. Ba, one of the other Blackwood riders, a young man Kalira recognized as Thomas Reed, someone she'd trained with as a child, spoke up. What about your family, Kael? Your mother's been sick with worry. Your sister won't stop crying. They need you. The words hit harder than Marcus's anger. Kalira closed her eyes briefly, fighting back the guilt that threatened to overwhelm her. I'll write to them, she said quietly. I'll explain. But I'm not coming back. Then you're declaring yourself an enemy of the Blackwood Pack, Marcus said, his voice heavy with resignation. Do you understand that? If you stay here, you're choosing their side. And when the inevitable conflict comes, and it will come, you'll be expected to fight against your own blood. I know. And you're willing to live with that? Kalira looked down at her uncle, this man who had taught her to track, to hunt, to survive in the wilderness, who had told her stories by the fire and praised her when she succeeded and picked her up when she failed. I don't know, she said honestly, but I know I can't go back. I know I'd rather face an uncertain future here than a certain humiliation there. Marcus's shoulders sagged. For a moment, he looked very old and very tired. Then I failed you, he said quietly, and I'm sorry for that. He remounted his horse and turned to leave. The other riders followed, except for Thomas, who hesitated. Your mother wanted me to tell you she loves you, he said. No matter what you choose. She wanted you to know that. Kalira's throat tightened. Tell her I love her too, and that I'm sorry. Thomas nodded and rode after the others. The gates closed behind them with a heavy finality that echoed through the courtyard. Darian waited until the Blackwood riders had disappeared into the forest before speaking. That was harder than you expected. Yes. Are you having second thoughts? No. Kalira turned to face him. But I need to know something. If war comes, when war comes, what will you expect from me? What do you mean? Will you ask me to fight them? To kill people I've known my entire life? Darian studied her for a long moment. I won't ask you to do anything you're not willing to do, but I will ask you to choose where your loyalty lies. You can't have a foot in both worlds, Kalira. Eventually, you'll have to commit fully to one side or the other. And if I can't, then you'll be a danger to yourself and everyone around you, and I'll have no choice but to send you away. The honesty was brutal, but Kalira appreciated it. At least with Darian, she knew where she stood. I understand, she said. Good. Now come down from there. We have work to do. The next morning, Kalira woke to find her quarters empty except for a note from Alara. Meet me in the eastern woods, alone. Come armed. She dressed quickly, strapped on her weapons, and made her way through the settlement. The sun was barely above the horizon, casting long shadows across the frozen ground. A few early risers nodded to her as she passed. Not friendly exactly, but not hostile either. Progress, she supposed. She found Alara waiting in a small clearing about a mile from the settlement. The beta was wearing light armor and carried a bow across her back. Punctual, Alara said approvingly. That's good. means you take this seriously. Take what seriously? Your survival. Because despite what Darian might have told you, not everyone in this pack is willing to accept you. Some of them would prefer to see you gone, preferably in pieces. Kalira's hand moved instinctively to her blade. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. There's a difference. Elara gestured to the surrounding forest. This territory is dangerous, not just because of predators and harsh weather, but because of what lies beneath it. Do you know why we're called the Frostborn? I assumed it was because of the climate. Partially, but the real reason is the curse that runs through this land, through this pack, through Darian himself. Kalira frowned. What curse? The Winter's Claim, an ancient magic that's been bound to the Frost bloodline for generations. It gives the Alpha incredible power, strength, speed, the ability to survive conditions that would kill normal wolves. But it comes with a price. What kind of price? Elara's expression grew grim. Everything Darian truly loves turns to ice. Everything he cares about deeply enough, he destroys. His sister, his parents, everyone who's ever gotten too close. The word sent a chill down Kalira's spine. That's impossible. Curses like that are just stories. You really believe that? After everything you've seen? After everything you've experienced? Elara shook her head. Magic is real, Kalira. And so is the curse that's slowly destroying our Alpha from the inside out. Then why are you telling me this? Because I've seen the way he looks at you, the way he's started to care, and I need you to understand what that means. Elara stepped closer. If you stay, if you let yourself get close to him, you'll die. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually the curse will take you, just like it's taken everyone else. Kalira's mind raced. Does he know about the curse? Of course he knows. Why do you think he keeps everyone at arm's length? Why do you think he's never taken a mate despite being Alpha for 7 years? He's trying to protect people from himself. Then why bring me here? Why risk? Because he's desperate. Because he's running out of time. The curse is getting stronger. It's starting to affect more than just the people he cares about. It's starting to spread to the land itself. The winters are getting longer, harsher. Animals are dying. Crops are failing. If we don't find a way to break it soon, it'll destroy everything. Kalira felt like the ground had shifted beneath her feet. And you think I can help break it? I don't know. But Darian does. He thinks there's something about you, some quality, some power, that might be the key. That's why he really brought you here. Not for revenge against Corvin, not for strategy, but because he's gambling that you might be the one person who can save him. That's insane. I'm not special. I don't have any power. Are you sure about that? Before Kalira could respond, the temperature dropped precipitously. Her breath came out in white clouds. Frost spread across the ground in intricate patterns, creeping toward her boots. And then she saw him. Darian stood at the edge of the clearing, his eyes glowing with an unnatural blue light. Ice crystals formed in the air around him, spinning in a slow vortex that defied physics and reason. Elara, he said, his voice carrying an otherworldly echo. Step away from her. Darian, I said step away. Elara moved quickly, putting distance between herself and Kalira. Darian's attention fixed on Kalira, and she felt the full weight of whatever power was moving through him. It was terrifying, beautiful, absolutely alien. You shouldn't have told her, Darian said to Elara, though his gaze never left Kalira. She wasn't ready. She deserved to know the truth. The truth is dangerous. So is ignorance. The ice around Darian grew thicker, spreading across the trees, covering the ground in a sheet of frozen crystal. Kalira could feel the cold trying to reach her, trying to wrap around her heart and freeze it solid. But something inside her pushed back. Heat bloomed in her chest, sudden, fierce, unexpected. It spread through her body like wildfire, warming her from the inside out. The frost that had been creeping toward her stopped, then reversed. Darian's eyes widened. What? The ice around him shattered, not slowly, not gradually, but in an instant, as if something had struck it with immense force. He staggered backward, the blue light fading from his eyes, his breathing ragged. Kalira stared at her hands. They were glowing, faintly, with a warm golden light that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside her. What did I just do? She whispered. Alara looked between them, her expression caught somewhere between shock and hope. Fire magic. You have fire in your blood. That's impossible. My family doesn't. We're not. Clearly, someone in your lineage was. Alara turned to Darian. Did you know? I suspected. Darian straightened slowly, his breathing still uneven. There were signs. The way she never seemed to feel the cold as much as she should. The way she radiated warmth even in the harshest weather. I thought it might be latent, dormant. I didn't realize it was this strong. This changes everything, Alara said. I know. Kaelira's head spun. Fire magic, bloodline power, a curse she was somehow supposed to break. This was too much, too fast. I need to sit down, she said faintly. Darian was beside her in an instant, his hand on her elbow, steadying her. His touch was cold, always cold, but not unbearable, not painful. Breathe, he said quietly. Just breathe. She did, slowly, until the world stopped tilting. I don't understand any of this, she said. Neither do I. Not completely. But we're going to figure it out together. Why didn't you tell me? Why let me think I was just... Because I needed to be sure. And because I didn't want to put that kind of pressure on you until I was certain. His jaw tightened. You've been through enough. You didn't need me adding to your burden. So instead you let me walk around blind? Let me train and bleed and break myself trying to fit in, all while hiding this from me? Yes. Because the alternative was watching you run, and I couldn't... He stopped himself. I needed you to stay. Why? What am I to you really? A weapon? A cure? Another pawn in whatever game you're playing? You're none of those things. His voice dropped to something raw, something real. You're the first person in 5 years who's made me feel like maybe I'm not completely damned. The first person who's looked at me and not seen a monster. And yes, I'm selfish enough to want to keep that feeling, even if it destroys us both. The honesty in his words stole her breath. Kaelira looked at this man, this alpha, who had given her refuge when she had nowhere else to go, who had pushed her to become stronger, who carried a curse that was slowly killing him and everyone he loved. And she made a decision. Teach me, she said. Teach me how to control this power. If I can help break your curse, I will. But I'm done being kept in the dark. From now on, you tell me everything, or I walk. Darian searched her face. You'd risk your life for someone you barely know? I'd risk my life for a chance at something real, something that's mine, not given to me by pack law or tradition or some predetermined bond, but chosen, earned, built from the ground up. She met his eyes. So yes, I'll risk it. Will you? For a long moment he didn't answer. Then he smiled. A real smile, not the careful masks he usually wore. Yes, he said, I will. Training became something else entirely after that morning. Instead of just combat and survival skills, Kaelira spent hours each day working with an old woman named Vera, the pack's healer, and the only person who knew anything about ancient magic. Vera was ancient, her face lined with a century of hard winters and harder truths. She moved slowly but spoke with absolute authority. Fire magic is rare, she said as they sat in her cottage, surrounded by herbs and crystals and things Kaelira couldn't identify. Most bloodlines lost it generations ago when they chose the wolf over the flame. The fact that yours survived means someone in your family made a different choice. But why would they hide it? Why not use it? Because fire is dangerous, unpredictable. It consumes everything it touches if you're not careful. Your ancestors probably buried it deep to protect themselves and their descendants. Can you teach me to control it? I can teach you to not burn yourself alive. Actual control? That's going to take time you might not have. Why? Vera gave her a look that suggested she was being deliberately dense. Because the curse is accelerating. Can't you feel it? The cold's getting worse. The ice is spreading. We have maybe a few months before it becomes irreversible. And if I can't learn fast enough, then Darian dies. This pack scatters, and the entire Northern Territory becomes a frozen wasteland. Vera shrugged. No pressure. Kaelira threw herself into the work with single-minded determination. She learned to summon the fire without burning, to shape it, to direct it. It was exhausting, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. And through it all, Darian watched. He came to her training sessions when he could, standing in the shadows, his expression unreadable. Sometimes she felt his attention like a physical weight. Other times she forgot he was there entirely, lost in the challenge of bending this wild magic to her will. One evening, after a particularly brutal session that left her drained and shaking, he approached her as she sat by Vera's fire. "You're pushing too hard," he said. "I have to. You said it yourself. We're running out of time." "Not at the cost of destroying yourself." "Why do you care?" The question came out sharper than she intended, but she was tired, frustrated, and sick of pretending she didn't notice the way he looked at her, the way the air changed when they were alone. Darian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful, measured. "Because you matter. To this pack, to the fight we're in, to—" He stopped, started again. "To me. Don't. Don't what? Don't care about me. Don't let yourself get close. You know what happens when you do. I'm already close. It's too late to go back. Then pull away. Put distance between us. Whatever you have to do to keep the curse from—" "It doesn't work like that." The words burst out of him, raw and frustrated. "You think I haven't tried? You think I haven't spent 7 years building walls and pushing people away and doing everything I can to protect them from this thing inside me? Then keep doing it. I can't. Not with you. Not anymore." He ran a hand through his hair, looking more rattled than she'd ever seen him. "Every time I try to maintain distance, you do something brave or reckless or completely insane, and I'm pulled right back in. That's not my fault. I know, which is why I'm asking you to be careful, to protect yourself. Because if the curse takes you—" His voice cracked. "I won't survive that. I've lost too many people already. I can't lose you too." Kalyra stood slowly, her entire body aching from the day's training. She should walk away, should put distance between them, should do exactly what Alara had warned her to do. Instead, she stepped closer. "Then we break it," she said. "We find a way to shatter this curse before it takes anyone else. And we do it together. No more secrets, no more holding back. We fight this thing with everything we have. And if we fail, then at least we'll fail honestly. No regrets, no what-ifs. Just two people who chose to stand together against impossible odds." Darian looked at her like she'd offered him salvation and damnation in the same breath. Then he did something she didn't expect. He reached out and took her hand. His skin was cold, always cold, but she felt the fire in her blood rise to meet it. Heat and ice, flame and frost. Two opposing forces that should have destroyed each other. Instead, they balanced. "All right," he said quietly. "Together." Together. Neither of them let go. Word of Kaelyra's power spread through the pack faster than wildfire. Within days, everyone knew. The Blackwood trader had fire magic. She was training to break the curse. She was the Alpha's chosen weapon, or perhaps something more dangerous. The reactions were mixed. Some wolves saw hope. Finally, a chance to end the suffering that had plagued their pack for generations. Others saw threat. A Blackwood witch who'd seduced their Alpha and would probably destroy them all. And a few saw opportunity. Kaelyra was training in the courtyard 3 days after her first successful sustained fire summoning when she felt the shift in the air. The watching crowd had grown hostile. Tense. She lowered her hands, letting the flames dissipate, and turned to face them. "Something you want to say?" she called out. A woman stepped forward, Lissa, one of the senior warriors. She was tall, scarred, and absolutely furious. "You don't belong here," Lissa said bluntly. "You're an outsider, an enemy, and now you're telling us you have magic? That you're the one who's supposed to save us? It's insulting." "I never said I was going to save anyone. I said I was going to try." "Why? What's in it for you?" "Does it matter?" "Yes, because if you're here for personal gain, if you're using our Alpha's desperation to secure power for yourself, then you're worse than any enemy we've ever faced." Kaelyra felt anger flare hot in her chest. "You think I want this? You think I asked to discover I had fire magic? To find out I might be the only thing standing between your pack and destruction? I think you're convenient. Too convenient. You show up right when Darian's at his weakest, right when the curse is accelerating, and suddenly you're the answer to all our problems? I don't believe in coincidence. Believe what you want. I'm still going to do everything I can to help. Then prove it. How? Lissa drew her blade. Fight me. Here. Now. Show this pack that you're worthy of the protection you've been given. Show them you're more than just a pretty face with a convenient power. The crowd murmured, some in approval, some in concern. Kalira looked around for Darian or Alara or Thorn, anyone who might step in and stop this. But they were nowhere to be seen. She was alone. This is insane, she said. This is tradition. Combat decides worth. If you can't defend yourself, you have no place in this pack. So what's it going to be, Blackwood? Fight or run? Kalira's hand moved to her own blade. She was exhausted from training. Her magic reserves were depleted, and Lissa was a seasoned warrior with twice her experience. This was a losing fight, but she'd be damned if she'd run. All right, Kalira said, drawing her blade. Let's do this. Lissa smiled. It wasn't friendly. They circled each other slowly, the crowd pressing in to form a rough ring. Kalira's heart pounded, but she kept her breathing steady, remembering everything Thorn had taught her. Watch the shoulders. Anticipate the strike. Don't commit until you're certain. Lissa lunged without warning, her blade cutting through the air with brutal efficiency. Kalira barely got her weapon up in time. The impact sent shockwaves up her arms, but she held firm. Not bad, Lissa said. Let's see how long you last. The fight became a blur of motion and instinct. Lissa attacked relentlessly, driving Kalira backward, forcing her to defend rather than strike. Every block jarred Kalira's bones. Every dodge came a heartbeat too slow. She was going to lose. Unless Kalira reached for the fire, not to summon flames, that would be lethal in a sparring match, but to channel the heat into her muscles, to push past exhaustion, to move faster. It worked. Her next dodge was clean, precise. She slipped inside Lisa's guard and struck back, not hard enough to seriously injure, but enough to prove a point. Lissa's eyes widened in surprise. The fight shifted. Now they were actually matched. Kalira used her fire-enhanced speed to compensate for Lissa's experience. She anticipated, adapted, pushed back. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, but Kalira was burning through her reserves too fast. She could feel the magic draining away, leaving her weaker with each passing second. She had maybe one more surge left. She waited for her moment. Lissa overextended on a heavy strike, putting all her weight behind it. Kalira sidestepped, channeled the last of her fire into one explosive movement, and swept Lissa's legs out from under her. The warrior went down hard. Kalira pressed her blade to Lissa's throat before the woman could recover. Silence. Then someone in the crowd started clapping. Others joined in. Kalira stepped back, offering Lissa a hand. The warrior stared at it for a moment, then took it, allowing herself to be pulled up. You fight dirty, Lissa said. I fight to win. Good. Lissa sheathed her blade. That's what this pack needs. Not honor, not tradition, but survivors who'll do whatever it takes. She walked away without another word, the crowd parting for her. Kalira stood there, swaying slightly, her energy completely spent. And then she saw Darian standing at the edge of the courtyard. He'd been there the whole time, watching, waiting to see if she'd fight or run. Their eyes met across the distance. He nodded once. Approval? Respect. And something else she couldn't quite name. Kalira turned and walked toward the barracks, every muscle in her body screaming in protest. She'd proven herself today, but she knew the real test was still coming. She'd barely made it to her quarters when the first scream echoed through the settlement. Kalira spun around, her exhausted muscles protesting, and ran back toward the courtyard. Warriors were already mobilizing, grabbing weapons, shouting orders. The air had turned bitter cold, colder than it should be even in the depths of winter. Thorn appeared beside her, his face grim. It's the eastern perimeter. Something's come through. What kind of something? The kind that leaves everything frozen solid. They ran together toward the eastern wall. What Kalira saw when they arrived made her blood turn to ice. 3 frostborn scouts lay on the ground, their bodies encased in crystalline frost. They weren't moving, weren't breathing. Their eyes were open, frozen, mid-terror, staring at nothing. And beyond them, the forest itself had transformed. Trees that had been green and living an hour ago now stood like glass sculptures, every branch, every needle covered in thick ice that glittered with an unnatural blue light. Darian stood at the center of it all, his body rigid, his eyes blazing with that terrible azure glow. Ice radiated from him in waves, spreading across the ground in geometric patterns that defied nature. "Get back!" Alara shouted at the gathering crowd. "Everyone back, now!" But Kaelira didn't move. She watched as Darian fought for control, his hands clenched into fists, his entire body trembling with effort. This was the curse. This was what happened when he lost control. "How do we stop it?" Kaelira asked Vera, who had appeared at her elbow. "We don't. He has to stop it himself. Or what? Or it consumes him completely, turns him into nothing but living ice, a monster that destroys everything it touches until there's nothing left to destroy." Kaelira stepped forward. "Don't!" Vera grabbed her arm. "If you get too close, I have fire. I can counter it. You don't have enough control. You could burn yourself out trying to fight something this powerful." "Then I burn out." Kaelira pulled free. "I'm not standing here watching him die." She walked toward Darian, feeling the temperature drop with each step. Her breath came out in frozen clouds. Frost formed on her clothes, in her hair, across her skin. But beneath it all, she felt the fire rising. "Darian," her voice cut through the sound of cracking ice. "Look at me." His head turned slowly. When his eyes met hers, there was barely any recognition there. Just power, cold, death. "I know you're in there," she said, moving closer. "I know you're fighting, so keep fighting. Don't let it win." The ice spread faster, reaching for her. She channeled heat into her hands, melting it before it could take hold. "Kaelira, stop." His voice was barely human, distorted by the magic consuming him. "I can't. I won't be able to." "Yes, you will, because I'm not leaving. So either you get control of this thing, or you freeze me solid. Those are your options." "You don't understand. It's too strong. It wants—" "I don't care what it wants. I care what you want. And I know you don't want to hurt anyone, so fight it. Right now, with everything you have." She was close enough now to touch him. The cold was excruciating, pressing against her fire like a physical force. But she pushed back harder, drawing on reserves she didn't know she had. "Kaelira!" She grabbed his hand. The collision of fire and ice was explosive. Energy crackled through the air, visible as red and blue lightning that arced between them. The ground beneath their feet cracked, steam rising in billowing clouds. And somewhere in the chaos, Kaelira felt it. A presence. Ancient, malevolent, hungry. This wasn't just a curse. It was alive. "Who did this to you?" she gasped, her entire body shaking from the effort of maintaining the connection. Darian's eyes cleared slightly. "Morvana. The Winter Witch. He gritted his teeth as another wave of ice tried to surge through him. "She cursed my bloodline 3 generations ago, payment for a broken promise." "What promise?" "My grandfather swore to marry her daughter, to unite the Frostborn pack with her coven, but he fell in love with someone else. Broke the contract. So Morvana cursed every alpha who came after. Doomed us to freeze everything we love until the bloodline ends or the debt is paid. That's insane. You can't hold children accountable for their grandfather's choices. Try telling that to a witch who's lived for 300 years and measures time in generations." The ice surged again, stronger this time. Kaelira's fire flickered, weakening. "I can't hold it," she gasped. "Then let go. Save yourself." "No." Kaelira, I said no." She pulled more fire, burning through her reserves, through her limits, through everything Vera had warned her not to do. "If this curse wants you, it has to go through me first." The fire exploded outward. For one perfect moment, everything went white hot. The ice shattered, the cold retreated, and Darian collapsed, the blue light fading from his eyes. Kaelira fell with him, her strength completely gone. The last thing she heard before darkness took her was Alara shouting for the healers. What the? She woke in Vera's cottage 2 days later. Her entire body ached like she'd been trampled by horses. Her throat was raw. Her hands were wrapped in bandages that smelled of herbs and something medicinal. "Don't try to move," Vera said from somewhere to her left. "You nearly burned yourself out. Another few seconds and you would have turned your own blood to ash." "Darian," Kalira's voice came out as a croak. Alive. Recovering. Also an idiot for letting it get that far, but alive. Kalira let her head fall back against the pillow. What happened after I passed out? The curse retreated. For now. But it's not gone. It's never gone. It's just waiting for the next time he feels something strongly enough to trigger it. So we didn't solve anything. On the contrary, Vera moved into view, her ancient face unreadable. You proved something important. Your fire can counter his ice. Not permanently, but long enough to pull him back from the edge. That's more than anyone's been able to do in 5 years. Great. So I'm a stopgap measure. Your hope, which is more than this pack has had in a very long time. Vera sat down heavily in a chair beside the bed. But it's not enough. To truly break the curse, you'd need to confront the source, the witch who created it. Morvana. Yes, she lives in the Blackthorn Mountains, about 3 days north of here. No one's been able to reach her stronghold in decades. Those who try either turn back or never return at all. Has Darian tried? Twice. The first time he made it within a mile of her territory before the curse nearly killed him and everyone with him. The second time, she sent ice wraiths that slaughtered half his party. He barely escaped with his life. Kalira processed this. So we're dealing with someone who's powerful, vindictive, and apparently untouchable. Exactly. Wonderful. The door opened and Darian entered, moving carefully like someone who'd recently been broken and put back together. His eyes found Kalira immediately, and something in his expression, relief, guilt, fear, made her chest tighten. I'll give you two some privacy, Vera said, standing. But Kalira, no strenuous activity. Your body needs time to heal. She left, closing the door behind her. Darian stood there for a long moment, just looking at Kalira like he was trying to convince himself she was real. You're an idiot, he said finally. You're welcome. I'm serious. You could have died. You almost did die, all because you decided to play hero. I didn't play anything. I made a choice, just like you did when you brought me here. That's different. How? Because He stopped himself, running a hand through his hair in frustration. Because you matter. And I can't keep watching people who matter get hurt because of me. Then stop pushing people away. Stop trying to carry this curse alone. I'm not trying to be noble. I'm trying to keep you alive. Well, I'm trying to keep you alive. So I guess we're at an impasse. Darian laughed, but it was a broken sound. He moved to the chair Vera had vacated and sat down heavily. I thought I'd killed you. When you collapsed, when you wouldn't wake up, I thought, but you didn't. I'm still here, for now, but Vera's right. Next time might be different. Next time the curse might be too strong for your fire to counter. And then what? Then we make sure there isn't a next time. We find Morvana. We break the curse at its source. I already told you, she's untouchable. I've tried. You tried alone. Or with warriors who didn't have fire magic. Kalira pushed herself up to sitting, ignoring the protest from her muscles. I'm not saying it'll be easy, but it's the only real solution. You know it is. Darian was quiet for a long moment. It's a death sentence. Even if we make it to her stronghold, even if we somehow survive her defenses, she's had 300 years to perfect her magic. We'd be walking into a fight we can't win. Maybe. Or maybe she's been sitting in her mountain fortress for so long that she's forgotten what it's like to face someone who refuses to give up, someone who has nothing left to lose. You have everything to lose, do I? My old pack rejected me. My family thinks I'm a traitor. The only thing I have left is this chance to do something that matters, to help someone who gave me refuge when I needed it most. She met his eyes. So yes, I'm willing to risk it. The question is, are you? You don't know what you're asking. Then tell me. No more secrets. What does confronting Morvana really mean? Darian's jaw tightened. It means sacrificing everything. To break a curse this powerful, there's always a price. Blood, life, love. Something has to be given in equal measure to what was taken. Your grandfather broke a marriage contract. What does that translate to in magical terms? I don't know. And that's what terrifies me. Because if the price is higher than we can pay, if it requires something we can't give, then we fail, and the curse becomes permanent. Kalira absorbed this. So we're gambling everything on a solution we don't fully understand against an enemy we can't beat for a prize that might not even exist. Yes. Sounds like Tuesday. Despite everything, Darian smiled. How are you not terrified? Who says I'm not? I'm absolutely terrified, but I'm also done running from things that scare me. I spent 3 years being the perfect, obedient partner to an alpha who threw me away the moment something better came along. I'm not making that mistake again. What mistake? Waiting for someone else to save me. Waiting for permission to fight for what I want. I'm done waiting, Darian. So if we're going to do this, let's do it now. Before the curse gets stronger. Before we lose more people. Before we run out of time completely. He studied her face like he was trying to memorize it. You're serious. Completely. It's suicide. Probably. We could both die. I know. And you're still willing to go. Are you trying to talk me out of it or convince yourself? Darian stood and paced to the window, staring out at the frozen landscape. I've spent 5 years trying to protect this pack, trying to minimize casualties, trying to keep the curse contained. And it's failed. Every strategy, every precaution, nothing works. Maybe, he turned back to her. Maybe it's time to stop playing defense and go on the attack. That's what I've been saying. You understand what we're committing to? This isn't a raid, it's a war. Against an enemy who has every advantage. Except one. What? She thinks you're broken. She thinks the curse has already won. She doesn't know about me. About what I can do. That gives us an edge. A small one. Small is better than nothing. Kalira swung her legs over the side of the bed, testing her weight. Everything hurt, but she could move. That was enough. When do we leave? You need to recover first. Build your strength back. Learn better control of your fire. How long? 2 weeks, maybe 3. That's too long. The curse is accelerating. You said it yourself. And rushing in unprepared will get us killed faster than the curse ever could. Kalira wanted to argue, but she could see the logic. And more than that, she could see the fear beneath Darian's careful mask. He was terrified of losing her, of watching someone else he cared about die because of the curse that had haunted his family for generations. All right, she said quietly. 2 weeks, but not a day longer. Agreed. And Darian, yes? Thank you for not giving up. On yourself. On this fight. On... She stopped, suddenly unsure how to finish that sentence. He crossed the room and knelt beside the bed, bringing them eye to eye. I should be thanking you. You could have walked away a dozen times. You should have, but you stayed. You fought. You risked everything for someone you barely know. His hand found hers, cold fingers wrapping around warm ones. I don't deserve that kind of loyalty, but I swear I will do everything in my power to make sure you don't regret it. I already don't. Their faces were inches apart. Kalira could feel the pull between them. Not magical, not the curse, but something deeper. Something human. Darian felt it too. She could see it in his eyes. But he pulled back, created distance. I should let you rest, he said, his voice carefully neutral. Right. Rest. He stood and moved toward the door, but before he left, he paused and looked back at her. For what it's worth, he said quietly, you're the bravest person I've ever met, and I'm glad you're here, even if it terrifies me. Then he was gone. Kalira sat there in the silence, her heart pounding, her mind racing. 2 weeks. 2 weeks to prepare for a battle that would decide everything. She closed her eyes and reached for the fire inside her. It answered immediately, warm and strong and ready. Whatever came next, she would face it, and she would win. Or burn trying. The 2 weeks passed in a blur of intense training, strategic planning, and growing tension. Vera pushed Kalira harder than ever, forcing her to hold fire for hours at a time, to shape it into shields and weapons, to draw on it without burning out. By the end of the first week, Kalira could summon flames with a thought and dismiss them just as quickly. By the end of the second week, she could do it in her sleep, literally. She'd woken up 3 times to find her hands glowing, small flames dancing across her fingers in response to dreams she couldn't remember. Your magic is becoming instinctive, Vera explained. That's good. It means you won't hesitate in combat. But it also means you need to be careful about your emotional state. Strong feelings can trigger strong magic. Define strong feelings. Rage, terror, grief. Vera paused. Love. Kalira felt her cheeks heat. I'm not, child, I'm 3 times your age. Don't insult me by pretending I can't see what's happening between you and the alpha. Nothing's happening. Exactly. And that's the problem. All that tension with nowhere to go is going to explode eventually, probably at the worst possible moment. We're focused on the mission. Personal feelings can wait. Vera gave her a look that suggested she'd heard that particular lie many times before. If you say so, just don't be surprised when those feelings refuse to wait. Meanwhile, Darian assembled a small team for the journey to Morvana's stronghold. Not his full war party, that would be too obvious, too threatening. Instead, he chose carefully. Alara for her tactical mind, Thorn for his strength, and 2 younger warriors named Kess and Ronan, who were fast, smart, and expendable. The word expendable made Kalira's stomach turn, but she understood the calculus. This was a high-risk mission. Not everyone would make it back. The night before they were set to leave, the entire pack gathered for what they called the Sending, a ritual to honor warriors heading into dangerous territory. Kalira stood with the others in the center of the courtyard, while pack members came forward one by one to offer blessings, weapons, supplies, and words of encouragement. An old warrior named Garrick pressed a small carved stone into her hand. My father carried this through 3 wars. It's supposed to bring luck. You'll need it more than I do now. A young mother gave her a wool cloak. It's not much, but it'll keep you warm. Please come back. My daughter talks about you constantly. She thinks you're a hero. I'm not. To her you are. Don't take that from her. One by one they came, some friendly, some still suspicious, but all of them hoping, desperately, quietly, that this impossible mission might actually succeed. When the ceremony ended, Kalira found herself alone on the ramparts, looking out at the frozen wilderness they'd be entering tomorrow. Second thoughts? Alara's voice came from behind her. Too many to count. The beta moved to stand beside her. For what it's worth, I think you have a real chance. Your fire is strong, your will is stronger, and Darian trusts you. That's not something he gives easily. I know, that's what scares me. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. It's confidence that gets you killed. Alara, can I ask you something? Of course. If this goes wrong, if we don't make it back, will you look after the pack? Will you make sure they don't fall apart? Alara was quiet for a moment. You're already thinking like a Luna. I'm thinking like someone who understands what's at stake. The answer is yes, I'll hold them together, but I won't have to because you're coming back. You sound very sure of that. I am. Because you're too stubborn to die. And because Darian won't let you. He'll burn the whole world down before he loses you. Before Kalira could respond, a commotion erupted from the main gates. Riders. Coming fast. Kalira and Alara ran to the courtyard, arriving just as the gates opened to admit 3 wolves on exhausted horses. They wore blackwood colors. Kalira's heart sank. The lead rider dismounted and pulled off his hood. It was her father. Kalira felt the world tilt. She hadn't seen him since the claiming ceremony, hadn't spoken to him, hadn't been brave enough to face his disappointment. Father, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus Thorne looked older than she remembered, tired, worn down by something more than just the journey. Kailara, his voice was rough. We need to talk, now. Darian appeared at her side. Anything you have to say to her, you can say in front of me. Marcus's eyes hardened. This is family business. She's part of my pack now. That makes it my business. Your pack? Marcus's laugh was bitter. You've turned her into a traitor, convinced her to abandon everything she ever knew, and now you're planning to throw her life away on some suicide mission against a witch who's killed better warriors than any of you. Kalira's blood ran cold. How do you know about that? Because we have spies, just like you do. Because information travels. And because your mother woke up screaming 3 nights ago, convinced you were going to die. Marcus turned to her, his expression raw. Is it true? Are you really planning to go after Morvana? There was no point lying. Yes. Then you're an idiot, and I won't stand here and watch you commit suicide. You don't have a choice. I'm not asking for permission. Kaelira, listen to me. This isn't like the border skirmishes we've had with the Frostborn. This is ancient magic. This is a witch who's survived 3 centuries by destroying anyone who challenges her. You can't win. Maybe, but I have to try. Why? Because you have fire magic? Because you think that makes you special? You've had that power for 2 weeks. Morvana has had 300 years to perfect hers. I know the odds. I don't care. Then you're a fool. The words hit harder than any physical blow. Marcus stepped closer, his voice dropping. Your mother is dying, Kael. The healers give her maybe 6 months. She's been holding on because she wants to see you one more time. To tell you she forgives you for leaving. To tell you she loves you. But if you go on this mission, if you throw your life away for these people who've given you nothing but pain and danger, she'll die knowing her daughter chose vengeance over family. The world seemed to stop. She's what? Dying. She's been sick for months, but it got worse after you left. The healers think it's her heart. It's just giving out. Kaelira couldn't breathe. Her mother, dying. Why didn't you tell me? Because you cut us off. You left. You chose him. Marcus gestured at Darian. Over your own blood. That's not... I didn't... Come home, Kaelira. Please, forget this mission. Forget the Frostborn. Come home and spend what time you have left with your mother. She's asking for you. Everything Kaelira had built over the past few weeks, all her resolve, her purpose, her certainty, crumbled. Her mother was dying, and she wasn't there. I need a minute. She turned and walked away, barely aware of where she was going. She ended up in the stables, surrounded by horses and hay and blessed silence. Her mother was dying. She'd known leaving would hurt her family. But she'd convinced herself they'd be okay, that they'd understand eventually, that there would be time to make things right. But there wasn't. There was never enough time. Kaelira, Darian's voice was gentle. He'd followed her. Of course he had. Don't, she said, her voice breaking. Don't try to make this better. Don't tell me it'll be okay. It won't. I know. I have to go back. I have to see her. I know. But if I go back, I'm abandoning the mission. I'm abandoning you. I'm choosing your family, which is exactly what you should do. Kaelira spun to face him. Don't do that. Don't be understanding. Don't make this easy. What do you want me to say? That you're a traitor? That you're abandoning us? I won't, because it's not true. But the mission will happen with or without you. I'll take Alara and Thorn. We'll do our best, and whatever happens, happens. You'll die without me. The curse will, maybe not. But I'm not going to force you to choose between saving me and saying goodbye to your mother. That's not a choice anyone should have to make. Tears burned down Kaelira's face. I don't know what to do. Darian crossed to her and pulled her into his arms. His body was cold as always, but somehow that made it easier to lean into him, to let herself break. Go home, he said quietly. Be with your mother. Tell her you love her. Tell her you're sorry. And when it's done, when you've said everything you need to say, then you can decide what comes next. But don't sacrifice this moment because you feel obligated to me or this pack. We'll survive. We always do. And if I come back, after it's over, then I'll be here, if I'm still alive. That's not funny. It's not meant to be. It's the truth. We're going into this with or without you in 3 days. If we succeed, I'll find you. If we fail, he pulled back to look at her. If we fail, then at least you'll be with your family, where you belong. Kaelira wanted to argue, wanted to find some solution where she could be in 2 places at once, save everyone, fix everything. But life didn't work that way. Sometimes you just had to choose, and break your own heart in the process. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't be. You're making the right choice. It doesn't feel right. The right choice rarely does. He kissed her forehead, a brief cold touch that somehow burned hotter than any fire she could summon, and then stepped back. Your father's waiting. Go, before you change your mind. Kaelira nodded, not trusting her voice. She made it 3 steps toward the door before she stopped. Darian? Yes? Don't die, please. Just don't. He smiled, but it was sad, resigned. I'll do my best. It wasn't a promise, but it was all he could give. Kaylira walked out of the stables, across the courtyard to where her father waited with the horses. I'll come, she said, but I need to say goodbye first. Marcus nodded, something like relief washing over his face. Kaylira made the rounds quickly. Vera gave her a pouch of herbs. Thorn gripped her shoulder and told her she'd become a real warrior. Alara hugged her, brief, fierce, and whispered, "Take care of yourself." And then she was mounted, riding out of the Frostborn settlement with her father and his warriors, leaving behind the only place that had felt like home in months. She didn't look back. If she had, she would have seen Darian watching from the ramparts, and she would have seen the ice beginning to spread across his hands. The curse was accelerating, and now he would face it alone. The journey back to Blackwood territory took 2 days, and every mile felt like a betrayal. Kaylira rode in silence, her father and his warriors flanking her like she was a prisoner being escorted home rather than a daughter returning to see her dying mother. Maybe that's what she was. Maybe she'd stopped being a daughter the moment she walked away with Darian Frost. They crossed into Blackwood lands at dawn on the 3rd day. The forest looked exactly as she remembered. Tall pines heavy with snow, familiar trails worn smooth by generations of wolves, the distant sound of the river that marked the heart of their territory. It should have felt like coming home. Instead, it felt like visiting a grave. "Your mother's in the healer's lodge," Marcus said as they approached the settlement. "She's been asking for you every day since you left." Guilt twisted in Kaylira's chest. "How bad is it?" "See for yourself." The settlement was quiet, people going about their morning routines with the practiced efficiency of a well-ordered pack. A few looked up as they passed, their expressions ranging from curiosity to open hostility. Kaylira kept her eyes forward, refusing to acknowledge their stares. The healer's lodge sat at the edge of the settlement, a low building surrounded by herb gardens now buried under snow. Marcus dismounted and gestured for Kaylira to follow. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of medicinal plants and something else, something sweet and rotten that made Kaylira's stomach turn. The smell of death. Her mother lay in a bed near the far wall, propped up by pillows, her face pale and drawn. She'd always been a strong woman, broad-shouldered and fierce, with hands that could wield a blade as easily as they could braid hair or tend wounds. Now she looked fragile, breakable. "Kael?" Her mother's voice was barely a whisper. Kaylira crossed the room and dropped to her knees beside the bed, taking her mother's hand. It felt like paper, thin and cold despite the fire burning in the hearth. "I'm here, Mama. I'm here. I knew you'd come. Your father said, but I knew. I'm so sorry. I should have come sooner. I should have—" "Hush." Her mother squeezed her hand with surprising strength. "You did what you had to do. I'm not angry. You should be. I left. I abandoned you. You survived. That's all a mother can ask." Her mother's eyes searched Kaylira's face. "Are they treating you well, the Frostborn?" Kaylira thought about Darian and Alara and Thorn, about Vera and the training and the fire magic that had awakened inside her, about the impossible mission they were preparing for. "Yes," she said. "They're treating me well." "Good. That's good." Her mother's breathing was labored, each word an effort. "Your father thinks I'm dying because of grief, because you left, but that's not true. I've been sick for a long time. I just hid it well." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you had enough to worry about. The claiming ceremony, Corvin, your future." She smiled weakly. "I didn't want to add to your burden." "Mama, listen to me, Kael. I don't have much time, and I need you to hear this." She pulled Kaelira closer. "You come from a line of fire bearers. Did you know that?" Kaelira's blood ran cold. "What?" "My grandmother, and her mother before her. They had the gift, the ability to summon flame. But they hid it, buried it deep, because the pack was afraid of what it meant. Fire and wolf shouldn't mix, they said. It was unnatural." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you've awakened it. I can see it in you. The heat beneath your skin, the way your eyes catch the light. You have the gift, Kael, and you need to know it's not a curse. It's a blessing. one that's been waiting in our blood for 3 generations. Kaelira's mind reeled. Her fire magic wasn't random. It was hereditary. It had been there all along, just waiting for the right moment to emerge. The Frostborn Alpha, her mother continued. Darian Frost. He's cursed, isn't he? How did you... Because I've heard the stories everyone in the North has. The Winter's Claim, the curse that turns everything to ice, and I know my daughter well enough to know she wouldn't stay with him unless she thought she could help. Her mother's grip tightened. Can you? Can you break it? I don't know. We were going to try. We were going to go after the witch who created the curse. But then Father came and you chose to come home because you're a good daughter with a kind heart. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. But Kael, I need you to listen very carefully. I'm dying. Nothing you do can change that. But Darian, he still has a chance. If you can save him, you should. I can't leave you. Not like this. Yes, you can. Because that's what love is. Letting go when you need to. Making the hard choices. I've lived a full life, Kael. I've seen you grow into a woman I'm proud of. That's enough. But Darian, if you don't help him, the curse will destroy him and everyone around him. You know that. Mama, please, promise me. Promise me you'll go back. Promise me you'll fight for him the way you've never been able to fight for yourself. Kaelira couldn't speak. Tears streamed down her face, hot and unstoppable. Promise me, her mother repeated. I promise. Her mother smiled, the expression peaceful despite the pain etched in every line of her face. Good girl. Now tell me about him. Tell me about Darian. I want to know what kind of man won my daughter's heart. So Kaelira told her about the claiming ceremony and the rejection, about Darian appearing in the forest like fate itself, about the Frostborn pack and the training and the curse that was slowly destroying everything Darian touched. She talked until her mother's breathing evened out into sleep, her hand still clutching Kaelira's. Marcus appeared in the doorway. You should rest. It's been a long journey. I'm not leaving her. Kael, I said I'm not leaving. Marcus nodded and left her alone. Kaelira sat there through the night, holding her mother's hand, watching her chest rise and fall with increasingly shallow breaths. As dawn broke, her mother woke one final time. Kael? I'm here. Do you remember what I told you when you were little? About being brave? Kaelira nodded, her throat too tight to speak. I said bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it, choosing to stand when everything in you wants to run. Her mother's breathing hitched. You've always been the bravest person I know. Don't stop now. I love you, Mama. I love you too, my fire girl. Now I think I need to rest. Her mother's eyes closed. Her breathing slowed. And then, so gently that Kaelira almost didn't notice, it stopped. Kaelira sat there in the silence, still holding her mother's hand, feeling the warmth slowly fade from her skin. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat there, feeling something inside her break and reform into something harder, sharper, something that would burn. The funeral was held that evening, as was tradition. The entire pack gathered in the main clearing, forming a circle around the pyre where her mother's body lay wrapped in ceremonial cloth. Kaelira stood at the front with her father and sister, her face expressionless as the elder spoke the traditional words about life and death and the eternal cycle of the wolf. But Kaelira wasn't listening. She was thinking about promises, about choices, about the path that had led her here and the one that would lead her away. When it came time to light the pyre, Marcus offered her the torch. Kaelira took it, feeling the weight of the fire in her hands. She didn't need the torch. She could summon fire with a thought now. But tradition mattered to these people, so she played her part. She touched the flame to the oil-soaked wood and watched as the pyre caught, bright and hot and consuming, just like the rage building inside her. As the flames rose higher, Kaelira made a decision. She would go back to Frostborn territory. She would find Darian, and she would destroy the witch who had cursed him. Not because she was ordered to, not because it was expected, but because she chose to, because some things were worth fighting for, even if the fight killed you. The ceremony ended. People dispersed. Her father approached, his face lined with exhaustion and grief. I know what you're thinking, he said quietly. Do you? You're planning to leave again, to go back to him. Kalira didn't deny it. She made me promise. I know. She told me. Marcus's shoulders sagged. I tried to keep you here. I thought if I could just get you home, you'd remember who you really are, what you're meant to be. I know exactly who I am, maybe for the first time in my life. And who is that? Someone who doesn't run from hard fights. Someone who keeps her promises. Someone who burns. Marcus studied her for a long moment. Then, to her surprise, he smiled, sad but genuine. You're so much like her, your mother. She had that same fire in her eyes when she decided to do something, that same stubborn certainty that she was right and everyone else be damned. She was usually right. She was. Which is why I'm not going to try to stop you this time. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small leather pouch. This is yours. Your mother wanted you to have it. Kalira opened the pouch. Inside was a necklace, a simple chain with a pendant shaped like a flame, carved from red stone that seemed to glow from within. It's been in our family for generations, Marcus said, passed from mother to daughter. She wore it every day until she got too weak to put it on. Now it's yours. Kalira fastened the necklace around her throat, feeling the stone settle warm against her skin. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just survive. Come back when this is over. Even if it's just to visit, your sister will want to see you. Where's Mira? At the house. She couldn't face the funeral. She's taking this harder than any of us. Kalira nodded. I'll go see her, and then you leave. I know. Just promise me one thing. What? Make it count. Whatever you're about to do, make it worth all this pain, all this loss. Make it matter. I will. She meant it. Mira was curled up in their childhood bedroom, surrounded by memories and grief. She looked up when Kalira entered, her eyes red and swollen. You're leaving again, aren't you? There was no point lying. Yes. I knew it. I told Father you would. He didn't want to believe me, but I knew. Mira stood, anger flashing across her face. She just died, Kale. Our mother just died, and you're already planning to run back to them. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Explain it to me, because I don't understand how you can just leave. Again, like we don't matter, like she didn't matter. She's the reason I'm going back. The words exploded out of Kalira. She made me promise, made me swear I'd go back and help him, so that's what I'm doing. I'm keeping my word. To a man you barely know over your own family? To someone who needs me. To someone who gave me refuge when I had nowhere else to go. To someone who... She stopped, the truth catching in her throat. Who what? Mira pressed. Who makes me feel like I matter? Like I'm more than just a rejected Luna or a dutiful daughter or any of the other boxes people tried to put me in. When I'm with him, when I'm with the Frostborn, I'm just... me. And that's enough. Mira's anger crumbled. You love him. It wasn't a question. Kalira hadn't let herself think it, hadn't let herself name it. But hearing it said aloud, yes, she admitted. I think I do. Does he know? No, and I'm not planning to tell him, not until this is over. Not until we've broken the curse and survived whatever's coming. And if you don't survive, then at least I died fighting for something that mattered. Mira crossed the room and threw her arms around Kalira. You're an idiot, a brave, reckless, impossible idiot, but you're my sister, and I love you. Kalira held her tight. I love you too. Take care of Father. He's going to need you. I will. And Kael? Kill that witch. Make her pay for every bit of pain she's caused. Kalira pulled back, meeting her sister's eyes. Count on it. She left at first light, traveling alone this time. Faster that way. Less complicated. The journey back to Frostborn territory should have taken 2 days. Kalira made it in one, pushing herself and her horse to the limit. She arrived to find the settlement in chaos. Warriors ran through the streets, shouting orders. Healers rushed between buildings carrying supplies. And everywhere, there was ice, spreading across the ground, creeping up walls, coating everything in crystalline frost. Kalira's heart dropped. The curse had accelerated. She found Alara in the longhouse, barking orders at a group of warriors who looked terrified. Where is he? Kalira demanded. Alara spun around, shock and relief warring on her face. You came back. Where is he? The northern tower. But Kaelira, you can't. He's lost control completely. The curse has him. If you get too close, Kaelira was already running. She burst through the door of the northern tower and nearly fell as her feet hit ice. The entire interior was frozen solid, icicles hanging from the ceiling like teeth, frost covering every surface. And at the center of it all stood Darian, or what was left of him. Ice encased his body from the waist down, spreading visibly with each passing second. His eyes blazed with that terrible blue light, but behind it, she could see him fighting, struggling, losing. "Darian!" she shouted. His head turned slowly. Recognition flickered across his face. "Kaelira!" His voice was layered with ice, barely human. You shouldn't be here. Run! Before I... Not a chance." She summoned fire, feeling it roar to life in her chest. The heat spread through her body, warming her from the inside out. "I made a promise," she said, walking toward him. "I promised my mother I'd come back, that I'd fight for you, so that's what I'm doing. Your mother is dead. She died yesterday, and her last words were telling me to save you." Kaelira's voice broke. "So you don't get to give up. You don't get to let this curse win, because I didn't lose her just to lose you too." The ice surged toward her, jagged and deadly. Kaelira met it with flame. The collision was explosive, steam billowing through the tower in thick clouds. But she didn't stop. She pushed forward, melting through the ice, step by agonizing step. "Fight it, Darian. I know you're still in there." "I can't. It's too strong. Then I'll be strong enough for both of us." She was close now, close enough to see his face clearly, close enough to see the pain and fear and desperate hope in his eyes. She reached out and grabbed his hand. The moment their skin touched, something shifted. Her fire didn't just counter his ice, it connected to it, twined with it, found the source of the curse and followed it like a thread. And suddenly Kaelira wasn't in the tower anymore. She was somewhere else, somewhere cold and dark and ancient. A woman stood before her, tall and terrible, with white hair and eyes like winter storms. "Morvana." "Well, well," the witch said, her voice echoing through the void. "The little fire bearer, I wondered when you'd show yourself. You did this to him, to his whole family. I did what was necessary. A debt unpaid, a promise broken. These things have consequences. He's not responsible for his grandfather's mistakes. Blood carries burden. That is the way of magic. That is the way of the world." Morvana circled her like a predator. "But I'll make you a deal, little wolf. Come to me, face me yourself, and I'll consider releasing him." "Consider?" "I don't make promises I can't keep, unlike some." The witch's smile was cruel. "You have 3 days. Come to my stronghold in the Blackthorn Mountains. Come alone, and we'll see if your fire is strong enough to break what I've built. And if I don't, then Darian Frost dies. Slowly, painfully, turning to living ice while everyone he loves watches. Those are your options." The void shattered. Kaelira gasped, finding herself back in the tower, still holding Darian's hand. The ice had stopped spreading. Darian's eyes had cleared, the blue light fading. He collapsed, and Kaelira caught him, lowering them both to the frozen floor. What happened?" he asked weakly. "I found her. Morvana. She's been watching, waiting." Kaelira helped him sit up. "She wants me to come to her, alone, in 3 days." "Absolutely not. That's a trap." "I know, but it's also the only option we have." "Kaelira, she's accelerating the curse on purpose, to force my hand. If I don't go, you die. The whole pack dies. So I'm going." "Not alone, you're not. That's the deal." "Then we change the deal. We find another way." Kaelira looked at him, this man who'd saved her when she needed it most, who'd given her purpose and power and something worth fighting for, and she made a decision. "No," she said. "We play her game, but we play it smart. I go to her stronghold, I face her, but you and the others, you follow at a distance, and when the moment's right, when she thinks she's won, you strike. That's suicide. That's strategy. She expects me to come alone and desperate. She expects me to fail. So we give her what she expects, right up until we don't. Darian studied her face. You've changed. I've learned. From you. From Thorn and Alara and Vera. From my mother. She touched the pendant at her throat. I'm not the woman who showed up here desperate and broken. I'm something else now, something stronger. I know, I can see it. He caught her hand. But I need you to understand, if this goes wrong, if she's stronger than we think, then I burn. But I burn bright enough to give you a chance. She squeezed his fingers. That's the plan. That's the only plan that works. So, are you with me? Darian was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, fierce and proud, and absolutely terrifying. Always. They spent the next 2 days preparing. Vera gave Kylira potions to enhance her fire magic, to protect her from mental manipulation, to keep her alive if the worst happened. Thorn taught her brutal close combat techniques designed for fighting magic users. Alara mapped out routes to Morvana's stronghold, finding paths that would let them follow Kylira without being detected. And Darian worked with her every night, helping her build her fire higher, hotter, stronger. On the final night before she left, they stood together on the ramparts, looking out at the frozen wilderness. I need to tell you something, Darian said quietly. Before you go, in case... Don't do the in case I don't come back speech. We're both coming back. Kylira, both of us. That's the deal. He smiled. Stubborn. You have no idea. Actually, I think I do. He turned to face her fully. What you said in the tower, about your mother, about coming back for me. I need you to know, Darian, if you're about to tell me you love me, save it. Tell me after. When we've won. When the curse is broken. When we can actually have a future. She met his eyes. Give me something to fight for. Something to come back to. You don't think you have that already? I need to hear it when I'm not covered in ice and exhausted and terrified. Fair enough. He pulled her close, his cold body pressed against her warmth. Then I'll wait. But know that when this is over, when you come back, and you will come back, I'm not letting you go again. Good. Because I'm not planning to leave. They stood there in the cold, holding each other, neither willing to acknowledge that this might be the last time. When dawn came, Kylira rode out alone, heading north toward the Blackthorn Mountains, toward Morvana's stronghold, toward whatever fate awaited her. Behind her, at a careful distance, Darian and his warriors followed. The hunt had begun. And this time, Kylira wasn't prey. She was the hunter. The journey back to Blackwood territory took 2 days, and every mile felt like a betrayal. Kylira rode in silence, her father and his warriors flanking her like she was a prisoner being escorted home rather than a daughter returning to see her dying mother. Maybe that's what she was. Maybe she'd stopped being a daughter the moment she walked away with Darian Frost. They crossed into Blackwood lands at dawn on the 3rd day. The forest looked exactly as she remembered. Tall pines heavy with snow, familiar trails worn smooth by generations of wolves, the distant sound of the river that marked the heart of their territory. It should have felt like coming home. Instead, it felt like visiting a grave. Your mother's in the Healer's Lodge, Marcus said as they approached the settlement. She's been asking for you every day since you left. Guilt twisted in Kylira's chest. How bad is it? See for yourself. The settlement was quiet, people going about their morning routines with the practiced efficiency of a well-ordered pack. A few looked up as they passed, their expressions ranging from curiosity to open hostility. Kylira kept her eyes forward, refusing to acknowledge their stares. The Healer's Lodge sat at the edge of the settlement, a low building surrounded by herb gardens now buried under snow. Marcus dismounted and gestured for Kylira to follow. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of medicinal plants and something else, something sweet and rotten that made Kylira's stomach turn. The smell of death. Her mother lay in a bed near the far wall, propped up by pillows, her face pale and drawn. She'd always been a strong woman, broad-shouldered and fierce, with hands that could wield a blade as easily as they could braid hair or tend wounds. Now she looked fragile, breakable. Kyle? Her mother's voice was barely a whisper. Kylira crossed the room and dropped to her knees beside the bed, taking her mother's hand. It felt like paper, thin and cold, despite the fire burning in the hearth. "I'm here, Mama. I'm here. I knew you'd come. Your father said, but I knew. I'm so sorry. I should have come sooner. I should have—" "Hush." Her mother squeezed her hand with surprising strength. "You did what you had to do. I'm not angry. You should be. I left. I abandoned you. You survived. That's all a mother can ask." Her mother's eyes searched Kalira's face. "Are they treating you well? The Frostborn?" Kalira thought about Darian and Alara and Thorn, about Vera and the training and the fire magic that had awakened inside her, about the impossible mission they were preparing for. "Yes," she said. "They're treating me well." "Good. That's good." Her mother's breathing was labored, each word an effort. "Your father thinks I'm dying because of grief, because you left. But that's not true. I've been sick for a long time. I just hid it well. Why didn't you tell me? Because you had enough to worry about. The claiming ceremony, Corvin, your future." She smiled weakly. "I didn't want to add to your burden." "Mama?" "Listen to me, Kael. I don't have much time, and I need you to hear this." She pulled Kalira closer. "You come from a line of fire bearers. Did you know that?" Kalira's blood ran cold. "What?" "My grandmother, and her mother before her. They had the gift, the ability to summon flame, but they hid it, buried it deep, because the pack was afraid of what it meant. Fire and wolf shouldn't mix, they said. It was unnatural. Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you've awakened it. I can see it in you, the heat beneath your skin, the way your eyes catch the light. You have the gift, Kael, and you need to know it's not a curse. It's a blessing, one that's been waiting in our blood for 3 generations. Kalira's mind reeled. Her fire magic wasn't random. It was hereditary. It had been there all along, just waiting for the right moment to emerge. "The Frostborn Alpha," her mother continued. "Darian Frost. He's cursed, isn't he?" "How did you—" "Because I've heard the stories. Everyone in the North has. The Winter's claim, the curse that turns everything to ice. And I know my daughter well enough to know she wouldn't stay with him unless she thought she could help." Her mother's grip tightened. Can you break it?" "I don't know. We were going to try. We were going to go after the witch who created the curse. But then Father came and you chose to come home because you're a good daughter with a kind heart." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "But Kael, I need you to listen very carefully. I'm dying. Nothing you do can change that." "But Darian, he still has a chance. If you can save him, you should." "I can't leave you. Not like this." "Yes, you can. Because that's what love is. Letting go when you need to. Making the hard choices. I've lived a full life, Kael. I've seen you grow into a woman I'm proud of. That's enough. But Darian, if you don't help him, the curse will destroy him and everyone around him. You know that." "Mama, please." "Promise me. Promise me you'll go back. Promise me you'll fight for him the way you've never been able to fight for yourself." Kalira couldn't speak. Tears streamed down her face, hot and unstoppable. "Promise me," her mother repeated. "I promise." Her mother smiled, the expression peaceful despite the pain etched in every line of her face. "Good girl. Now tell me about him. Tell me about Darian. I want to know what kind of man won my daughter's heart." So Kalira told her about the claiming ceremony and the rejection, about Darian appearing in the forest like fate itself, about the Frostborn pack and the training and the curse that was slowly destroying everything Darian touched. She talked until her mother's breathing evened out into sleep, her hand still clutching Kalira's. Marcus appeared in the doorway. "You should rest. It's been a long journey." "I'm not leaving her." "I said I'm not leaving." Marcus nodded and left her alone. Kalira sat there through the night, holding her mother's hand, watching her chest rise and fall with increasingly shallow breaths. As dawn broke, her mother woke one final time. "Kael? I'm here. Do you remember what I told you when you were little about being brave?" Kalira nodded, her throat too tight to speak. "I said bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it, choosing to stand when everything in you wants to run." Her mother's breathing hitched. You've always been the bravest person I know. Don't stop now. I love you, Mama. I love you too, my fire girl. Now, I think I need to rest. Her mother's eyes closed. Her breathing slowed. And then, so gently that Kaelira almost didn't notice, it stopped. Kaelira sat there in the silence, still holding her mother's hand, feeling the warmth slowly fade from her skin. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat there, feeling something inside her break and reform into something harder, sharper, something that would burn. The funeral was held that evening, as was tradition. The entire pack gathered in the main clearing, forming a circle around the pyre where her mother's body lay wrapped in ceremonial cloth. Kaelira stood at the front with her father and sister, her face expressionless as the elders spoke the traditional words about life and death and the eternal cycle of the wolf. But Kaelira wasn't listening. She was thinking about promises, about choices, about the path that had led her here and the one that would lead her away. When it came time to light the pyre, Marcus offered her the torch. Kaelira took it, feeling the weight of the fire in her hands. She didn't need the torch. She could summon fire with a thought now, but tradition mattered to these people, so she played her part. She touched the flame to the oil-soaked wood and watched as the pyre caught, bright and hot and consuming, just like the rage building inside her. As the flames rose higher, Kaelira made a decision. She would go back to Frostborn territory. She would find Darian, and she would destroy the witch who had cursed him, not because she was ordered to, not because it was expected, but because she chose to. Because some things were worth fighting for, even if the fight killed you. The ceremony ended. People dispersed. Her father approached, his face lined with exhaustion and grief. "I know what you're thinking," he said quietly. "Do you? You're planning to leave again, to go back to him." Kaelira didn't deny it. "She made me promise." "I know. She told me." Marcus's shoulders sagged. "I tried to keep you here. I thought if I could just get you home, you'd remember who you really are, what you're meant to be. I know exactly who I am, maybe for the first time in my life." "And who is that?" "Someone who doesn't run from hard fights, someone who keeps her promises, someone who burns." Marcus studied her for a long moment. Then, to her surprise, he smiled, sad but genuine. "You're so much like her, your mother. She had that same fire in her eyes when she decided to do something, that same stubborn certainty that she was right and everyone else be damned. She was usually right. She was, which is why I'm not going to try to stop you this time." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small leather pouch. "This is yours. Your mother wanted you to have it." Kaelira opened the pouch. Inside was a necklace, a simple chain with a pendant shaped like a flame, carved from red stone that seemed to glow from within. "It's been in our family for generations," Marcus said, "passed from mother to daughter. She wore it every day until she got too weak to put it on. Now it's yours." Kaelira fastened the necklace around her throat, feeling the stone settle warm against her skin. "Thank you." "Don't thank me, just survive. Come back when this is over, even if it's just to visit. Your sister will want to see you." "Where's Mira?" "At the house. She couldn't face the funeral. She's taking this harder than any of us." Kaelira nodded. "I'll go see her, and then you leave. I know. Just promise me one thing." "What?" "Make it count. Whatever you're about to do, make it worth all this pain, all this loss. Make it matter." "I will." She meant it. Mira was curled up in their childhood bedroom, surrounded by memories and grief. She looked up when Kaelira entered, her eyes red and swollen. "You're leaving again, aren't you?" There was no point lying. "Yes. I knew it. I told Father you would. He didn't want to believe me, but I knew." Mira stood, anger flashing across her face. "She just died, Kael. Our mother just died, and you're already planning to run back to them." "It's not like that." "Then what is it like? Explain it to me. Because I don't understand how you can just leave. Again, like we don't matter. Like she didn't matter. She's the reason I'm going back." The words exploded out of Kaelira. "She made me promise, made me swear I'd go back and help him. So that's what I'm doing. I'm keeping my word. To a man you barely know over your own family? To someone who needs me, to someone who gave me refuge when I had nowhere else to go. To someone who..." She stopped, the truth catching in her throat. Who what? Mira pressed. Who makes me feel like I matter? Like I'm more than just a rejected Luna, or a dutiful daughter, or any of the other boxes people tried to put me in. When I'm with him, when I'm with the Frostborn, I'm just me, and that's enough. Mira's anger crumbled. You love him. It wasn't a question. Kalira hadn't let herself think it, hadn't let herself name it. But hearing it said aloud, yes, she admitted. I think I do. Does he know? No. And I'm not planning to tell him, not until this is over, not until we've broken the curse and survived whatever's coming. And if you don't survive, then at least I died fighting for something that mattered. Mira crossed the room and threw her arms around Kalira. You're an idiot, a brave, reckless, impossible idiot, but you're my sister, and I love you. Kalira held her tight. I love you too. Take care of Father. He's going to need you. I will. And Kael? Kill that witch. Make her pay for every bit of pain she's caused. Kalira pulled back, meeting her sister's eyes. Count on it. She left at first light, traveling alone this time. Faster that way. Less complicated. The journey back to Frostborn territory should have taken 2 days. Kalira made it in one, pushing herself and her horse to the limit. She arrived to find the settlement in chaos. Warriors ran through the streets, shouting orders. Healers rushed between buildings carrying supplies. And everywhere there was ice, spreading across the ground, creeping up walls, coating everything in crystalline frost. Kalira's heart dropped. The curse had accelerated. She found Alara in the longhouse, barking orders at a group of warriors who looked terrified. Where is he? Kalira demanded. Alara spun around, shock and relief warring on her face. You came back. Where is he? The northern tower. But Kalira, you can't. He's lost control completely. The curse has him. If you get too close, Kalira was already running. She burst through the door of the northern tower and nearly fell as her feet hit ice. The entire interior was frozen solid, icicles hanging from the ceiling like teeth, frost covering every surface. And at the center of it all stood Darian, or what was left of him. Ice encased his body from the waist down, spreading visibly with each passing second. His eyes blazed with that terrible blue light, but behind it, she could see him fighting, struggling, losing. Darian, she shouted. His head turned slowly. Recognition flickered across his face. Kalira? His voice was layered with ice, barely human. You shouldn't be here. Run, before I… Not a chance. She summoned fire, feeling it roar to life in her chest. The heat spread through her body, warming her from the inside out. I made a promise, she said, walking toward him. I promised my mother I'd come back, that I'd fight for you, so that's what I'm doing. Your mother is dead. She died yesterday, and her last words were telling me to save you. Kalira's voice broke. So you don't get to give up. You don't get to let this curse win, because I didn't lose her just to lose you too. The ice surged toward her, jagged and deadly. Kalira met it with flame. The collision was explosive, steam billowing through the tower in thick clouds. But she didn't stop. She pushed forward, melting through the ice, step by agonizing step. Fight it, Darian. I know you're still in there. I can't. It's too strong. Then I'll be strong enough for both of us. She was close now, close enough to see his face clearly, close enough to see the pain and fear and desperate hope in his eyes. She reached out and grabbed his hand. The moment their skin touched, something shifted. Her fire didn't just counter his ice, it connected to it, twined with it, found the source of the curse and followed it like a thread. And suddenly Kalira wasn't in the tower anymore. She was somewhere else, somewhere cold and dark and ancient. A woman stood before her, tall and terrible, with white hair and eyes like winter storms. Morvana. Well, well, the witch said, her voice echoing through the void. The little fire bearer. I wondered when you'd show yourself. You did this to him, to his whole family. I did what was necessary, a debt unpaid, a promise broken. These things have consequences. He's not responsible for his grandfather's mistakes. Blood carries burden. That is the way of magic. That is the way of the world. Morvana circled her like a predator. But I'll make you a deal, little wolf. Come to me. Face me yourself, and I'll consider releasing him. Consider? I don't make promises I can't keep, unlike some. The witch's smile was cruel. You have 3 days. Come to my stronghold in the Blackthorn Mountains. Come alone, and we'll see if your fire is strong enough to break what I've built. And if I don't, then Darian Frost dies, slowly, painfully, turning to living ice while everyone he loves watches. Those are your options. The void shattered. Kalira gasped, finding herself back in the tower, still holding Darian's hand. The ice had stopped spreading. Darian's eyes had cleared, the blue light fading. He collapsed and Kalira caught him, lowering them both to the frozen floor. What happened? He asked weakly. I found her. Morvana. She's been watching. Waiting. Kalira helped him sit up. She wants me to come to her, alone, in 3 days. Absolutely not. That's a trap. I know, but it's also the only option we have. Kalira. She's accelerating the curse on purpose, to force my hand. If I don't go, you die. The whole pack dies. So I'm going. Not alone you're not. That's the deal. Then we change the deal. We find another way. Kalira looked at him, this man who'd saved her when she needed it most, who'd given her purpose and power and something worth fighting for. And she made a decision. No, she said. We play her game, but we play it smart. I go to her stronghold, I face her, but you and the others, you follow at a distance. And when the moment's right, when she thinks she's won, you strike. That's suicide. That's strategy. She expects me to come alone and desperate. She expects me to fail, so we give her what she expects, right up until we don't. Darian studied her face. You've changed. I've learned. From you, from Thorn and Alara and Vera, from my mother. She touched the pendant at her throat. I'm not the woman who showed up here desperate and broken. I'm something else now, something stronger. I know. I can see it. He caught her hand. But I need you to understand, if this goes wrong, if she's stronger than we think, then I burn. But I burn bright enough to give you a chance. She squeezed his fingers. That's the plan. That's the only plan that works. So, are you with me? Darian was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, fierce and proud and absolutely terrifying. Always. They spent the next 2 days preparing. Vera gave Kalira potions to enhance her fire magic, to protect her from mental manipulation, to keep her alive if the worst happened. Thorn taught her brutal close combat techniques designed for fighting magic users. Alara mapped out routes to Morvana's stronghold, finding paths that would let them follow Kalira without being detected. And Darian worked with her every night, helping her build her fire higher, hotter, stronger. On the final night before she left, they stood together on the ramparts, looking out at the frozen wilderness. I need to tell you something, Darian said quietly, before you go. In case, don't do the in case I don't come back speech. We're both coming back. Kalira betrayal, both of us. That's the deal. He smiled. Stubborn. You have no idea. Actually, I think I do. He turned to face her fully. What you said in the tower about your mother, about coming back for me. I need you to know, Darian, if you're about to tell me you love me, save it. Tell me after. When we've won. When the curse is broken. When we can actually have a future. She met his eyes. Give me something to fight for. Something to come back to. You don't think you have that already? I need to hear it when I'm not covered in ice and exhausted and terrified. Fair enough. He pulled her close, his cold body pressed against her warmth. Then I'll wait. But know that when this is over, when you come back, and you will come back, I'm not letting you go again. Good, because I'm not planning to leave. They stood there in the cold, holding each other, neither willing to acknowledge that this might be the last time. When dawn came, Kalira rode out alone, heading north toward the Blackthorn Mountains, toward Morvana's stronghold, toward whatever fate awaited her. Behind her, at a careful distance, Darian and his warriors followed. The hunt had begun. And this time, Kalira wasn't prey. She was the hunter. The Blackthorn Mountains rose like broken teeth against the sky. jagged peaks disappearing into storm clouds that never seemed to move. Snow fell constantly here, thick and heavy, burying the landscape in white silence. Kyalira had been climbing for 2 days, following the path Alara had mapped out. The higher she went, the colder it became, a cold that had nothing to do with weather and everything to do with magic, ancient, malevolent, waiting. She could feel Morvana's presence like pressure against her skull, watching her approach with the patience of something that had all the time in the world. On the 3rd morning, she found it. The stronghold wasn't a castle or fortress. It was a palace carved entirely from ice, rising from the mountainside like it had grown there. Towers spiraled upward into impossible geometries, their surfaces reflecting light in ways that hurt to look at. The entrance was a massive arch guarded by 2 statues, wolves frozen mid-leap, their expressions caught between rage and terror. Kyalira dismounted and approached on foot, leaving her horse tied to a dead tree at the edge of the ice field. The animal wouldn't go any closer. Couldn't, probably. Survival instincts ran deep. She wished hers did too. Well, she muttered to herself, no turning back now. She walked through the arch. The interior was vast and empty, a cathedral of ice and shadow. Her footsteps echoed too loudly, bouncing off walls that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. At the far end of the hall sat a throne, and on that throne sat Morvana. She was exactly as Kyalira had seen her in the vision, tall, pale, beautiful in the way glaciers are beautiful. Deadly, ancient, utterly inhuman despite the shape she wore. "You came," the witch said, her voice like wind over frozen lakes. "I confess I had my doubts. Most mortals lack the courage to face their own deaths willingly. I'm not here to die." "No? Then why are you here?" "To break your curse. To free Darien and his bloodline from the punishment they never deserved." Morvana's laugh was crystalline and cruel. "Deserved? Such a mortal concept. Tell me, Firebearer, what makes you think you have the power to break what I've spent centuries perfecting?" "Because I have something you don't expect. Something your curse wasn't designed to handle." "Fire magic? Please, I've faced firebearers before. They all burned so beautifully before the ice took them." "Maybe, but they weren't fighting for what I'm fighting for." "And what's that? Love?" Morvana rose from her throne, descending the steps with inhuman grace. How painfully predictable. "You think love makes you stronger? It makes you weak, vulnerable. It gives me leverage." She gestured, and the ice walls shimmered. Images appeared, Darien and his warriors, hidden in the rocks below the stronghold, Alara scouting the perimeter, Thorn preparing weapons. They thought they were concealed. They were wrong. "Did you really think I wouldn't know?" Morvana asked. "That I wouldn't see them following you like loyal hounds? I've been alive for 300 years, child. I've forgotten more about strategy and deception than you'll ever learn." Kyalira's heart hammered, but she kept her voice steady. "So you knew? That doesn't change anything, doesn't it? With a thought I could freeze them all solid, make you watch as everyone you care about turns to ice. Is that what you want?" "No, which is why I'm offering you a deal." Morvana tilted her head, curiosity flickering across her ancient face. "I'm listening." "Let them go. All of them. And I'll give you what you really want, which is a fight. A real one, fire against ice, your power against mine. No tricks, no hostages. Just pure magic. If you win, you get to keep your curse. Keep destroying the Frost bloodline. I won't interfere again. But if I win, you break it, completely, forever." The witch studied her for a long moment. "You're offering me a duel? That's your grand plan?" "That's my offer, unless you're afraid you might lose." Morvana's eyes flashed. "I am fear itself, little wolf. I am winter incarnate. I have ended bloodlines and toppled kingdoms. And you, a girl who discovered her power mere weeks ago, think you can challenge me? I think you're bored. I think you've been sitting in this frozen palace for so long that you've forgotten what it's like to actually be tested. So here I am, testing you." Silence stretched between them, tension building like a coming storm. Then Morvana smiled. "Very well, I accept your terms. But understand, when you lose, when your fire gutters out and my ice claims you, I will make sure Darien Frost watches every second of it. I will make him feel it through the curse, and then I will freeze him slowly, piece by piece, until there's nothing left but a statue of regret. Then you better make sure you win. Kalyra summoned fire. It roared to life in her hands, red and gold and hot enough to turn the air around her to shimmer. She felt it singing in her blood, responding to her will with an eagerness that bordered on joy. Morvana raised her hands and the temperature plummeted. Ice shot from her fingers like spears, each one sharp enough to pierce flesh and bone. Kalyra met them with walls of flame, melting them before they could reach her. The battle was instant chaos. Fire and ice collided in explosive bursts of steam and light. Kalyra moved constantly, never staying in one place, using her flames to melt the ground beneath Morvana's feet, to superheat the air until breathing became difficult. But Morvana was ancient, experienced. She countered every move with brutal efficiency, creating ice constructs that fought independently. Wolves and bears and serpents made of frozen crystal that attacked from all sides. Kalyra destroyed them, but more kept coming. "You're strong," Morvana called out over the roar of battle. "Stronger than I expected, but strength alone won't save you. You're burning too hot, too fast. You'll exhaust yourself long before you exhaust me." She was right. Kalyra could feel her reserves draining. Every construct she destroyed, every attack she countered, cost her, and Morvana seemed limitless, drawing power from the mountains themselves, from centuries of accumulated magic. This was a fight Kalyra couldn't win through brute force. She needed something else, something Morvana wouldn't expect. Kalyra stopped attacking. She stood in the center of the hall, flames still dancing around her hands, and closed her eyes. "Giving up already?" Morvana taunted. "How disappointing." Kalyra didn't respond. She was listening, feeling, reaching deep inside herself to the place where the fire lived. Her mother had told her fire was a blessing, not a curse, that it had been waiting in their blood for generations. But why? Why had her ancestors buried this power? What had they been afraid of? And then she understood. They hadn't been afraid of the fire itself. They'd been afraid of what it could become when combined with the wolf. Kalyra had been treating them as separate, her wolf nature and her fire magic. Two distinct parts of herself that she could use independently. But what if they weren't meant to be separate? What if they were meant to be one? She let go of her human form. The shift happened in an instant. Bones restructuring, muscles reforming, fur erupting across her skin. But this time, something was different. The fire didn't disappear. It merged. Kalyra stood on 4 legs, but her fur burned. Actual flames rippled across her body like a living pelt, red and gold and white hot. Her eyes blazed with inner fire. Her breath came out in puffs of smoke and ember. She had become something new, something impossible. A fire wolf. Morvana's eyes widened. That's not possible. Fire and wolf can't. Kalyra lunged. She moved faster than anything her size should be able to move, crossing the distance in a heartbeat. Her jaws clamped down on one of Morvana's ice constructs, and the creature exploded into steam. Morvana threw up ice walls. Kalyra ran through them, melting them to nothing. The witch created a blizzard, trying to smother the flames. Kalyra burned hotter, turning the snow to rain before it could touch her. "Stop!" Morvana screamed, backing away. "This isn't... You can't!" But Kalyra could. Because this was what her ancestors had feared. This was the power they'd buried. Not because it was evil, but because it was overwhelming. Because fire and wolf together created something that couldn't be controlled, couldn't be contained, couldn't be stopped. Kalyra circled the witch, her burning form leaving scorch marks on the ice floor. "You made a mistake," as Kalyra's voice came out layered, human and wolf, and something in between. "You thought I was just a fire bearer, just a wolf. But I'm both. And together, we're unstoppable." She gathered fire, pulling it from deep inside, from reserves she didn't know she had. The pendant her mother had given her burned against her chest, feeding the flames, amplifying them. 3 generations of buried power. 3 generations of firebearers who'd hidden what they were. All of it flowing through Kalyra now. All of it ready to burn. "You wanted a fight?" Kalyra said. "Here's your fight." She released everything. The fire exploded outward in a supernova of heat and light. It didn't just melt Morvana's ice, it consumed it, shattered it, reduced it to nothing. The witch screamed, throwing up shields, summoning more power, trying desperately to counter the inferno bearing down on her. But it wasn't enough. Kaelira's fire found the curse itself, the invisible threads of magic that connected Morvana to Darien, to his bloodline, to generations of suffering, and she burned them away, one by one, thread by thread, until there was nothing left. The explosion shook the entire stronghold. Morvana fell to her knees, her power broken, her centuries of work undone in seconds. Kaelira shifted back to human form, her body smoking, her clothes singed, but alive, whole, victorious. "It's over," she said, her voice hoarse. "The curse is broken. Darien and his bloodline are free." Morvana looked up at her, and for the first time there was something other than cruelty in her eyes. Fear. "What are you?" the witch whispered. "I'm the answer to a question no one thought to ask. What happens when someone refuses to choose between who they are and what they can become?" Kaelira crouched down to Morvana's level. "I'm both, and that makes me stronger than you ever imagined. You should kill me. If you don't, You'll what? Rebuild your power? Create a new curse?" "I don't think so." Kaelira stood. "Because I'm leaving you alive, not out of mercy, but as a reminder that the old ways, the old powers, the old grudges, they can be beaten. They can be burned away. And there's nothing you can do to stop it." She turned and walked toward the entrance, leaving Morvana kneeling in the ruins of her stronghold. Behind her, she heard the witch whisper, "This isn't over." "Yes," Kaelira said without looking back. "It is." She found Darien and the others waiting at the base of the mountain. The moment she appeared, Darien ran to her, his face a mixture of terror and hope and desperate relief. Is it?" Kaelira felt the curse break fully the moment their hands touched. The ice that had been spreading through his veins, the cold that had threatened to consume him, all of it shattered like glass. Darien gasped, his eyes clearing, his body warming for the first time in years. "It's gone," he whispered, staring at his hands. "I can feel it. The curse is gone. I told you I'd break it." "How? What did you—" He stopped, really looking at her, at the scorch marks on her clothes, the way her eyes still held embers, the pendant glowing faintly at her throat. "What did you become?" "Something new. Something that probably should have existed a long time ago." She smiled, exhaustion finally catching up with her. "I'll explain later. Right now I just need—" Her legs gave out. Darien caught her, lowering them both to the ground. "You pushed too hard, burned too much. Had to. She was so strong." "I know, but you were stronger." He held her close, his warmth, actual warmth, not cold, seeping into her. "You saved me. Saved my entire bloodline. How do I even begin to thank you for that? You could start by keeping that promise, the one about not letting me go." "Done. Consider yourself stuck with me." Alara approached, her expression awed. "The curse is truly broken?" "We felt something. A shift in the air, like chains breaking, but we couldn't be sure." "It's broken," Kaelira confirmed. "Morvana's power is shattered. She won't be cursing anyone else." Thorn let out a whoop of triumph that echoed off the mountains. "We're free. After all these years, we're actually free." The other warriors took up the cry, their relief and joy palpable, but Kaelira barely heard them. She was too focused on Darien's face, on the way he looked at her like she'd hung the moon. "I love you," he said quietly, just for her. "I know you said to wait until after, until we'd won, so I'm telling you now. I love you, Kaelira Thorn, and I want you to stay, not as a guest, not as a temporary ally, but as my Luna, my partner, my equal in everything." Kaelira felt tears sting her eyes. "That's a terrible proposal. I know. I'll do better later, with flowers and speeches and everything you deserve. But right now, I just need you to know I love you too." She cut him off with a kiss, fierce and warm and tasting of smoke and victory. "And yes, to everything, to staying, to being your Luna, to building something new together." When they pulled apart, Alara was grinning. "About time. I was starting to think you two would dance around each other forever." "We're wolves," Darien said, not taking his eyes off Kalira. We don't dance. We claim what's ours. Possessive much? Always. Kalira laughed, the sound surprising her. When was the last time she'd laughed? Really laughed? Before the claiming ceremony? Before Corvin's rejection? Before everything fell apart and reformed into something better? We should head back, Elara said. The pack needs to know the curse is broken, and Kalira needs actual rest, not just collapsing from exhaustion in the snow. They made camp that night at the base of the mountains, building fires, normal fires, not magical ones, and celebrating their victory. But Kalira found herself sitting apart from the others, staring up at the stars, processing everything that had happened. Mind if I join you? Elara asked. Go ahead. The beta sat down beside her. You did something impossible today. You know that, right? Morvana was one of the oldest, most powerful witches in existence, and you beat her. I got lucky. Luck had nothing to do with it. You discovered your true nature, fire and wolf combined. Do you understand how rare that is? How powerful? I'm starting to. The pack is going to look to you now, not just as Darian's Luna, but as a protector, a warrior, someone who can keep them safe from threats they can't even imagine. Elara paused. That's a heavy burden. I know, but I think I'm ready for it. After everything I've been through, everything I've survived, this feels right, like this is who I was always meant to become. Your mother would be proud. The words hit harder than Kalira expected. Tears spilled down her cheeks before she could stop them. I wish she could have seen it. Wish I could tell her. She knows, Elara said gently. Wherever she is, she knows. And she's proud. I'm sure of it. They sat in silence for a while, watching the fire crackle and spark. Finally, Elara spoke again. What you said to Morvana about being the answer to a question no one thought to ask, that resonated with me, because that's what you are to this pack too. We were so focused on fighting the curse, on surviving it, that we never stopped to ask what might come after, what might be possible if we could actually break free. She looked at Kalira. You're the answer. You're the future we couldn't imagine. No pressure or anything, Elara laughed. You'll be fine. You've already proven you can handle the impossible. Everything else is just details. They returned to Frostborn territory 3 days later to find the entire pack waiting at the gates. The moment they saw Darian, truly saw him, felt the absence of the curse that had plagued him for years, a cheer went up that shook the mountains. People rushed forward, touching him, confirming with their own senses that the curse was truly gone, that their alpha was free. And when Darian raised Kalira's hand, presenting her formally as his chosen Luna, the cheer doubled. Not everyone was happy about it. Kalira could see the skeptics in the crowd, the wolves who still saw her as an outsider, a Blackwood intruder. But she'd proven herself in fire and blood and magic. She'd earned her place. That night, they held a bonding ceremony. Not the formal, traditional claiming that Kalira had suffered through with Corvin, but something new. Something they created together. They stood in the center of the courtyard, surrounded by the pack, and spoke their own vows. I promise to stand beside you, Darian said, his voice carrying across the crowd. Not above you, not behind you, beside you, as equals, as partners, as mates who chose each other freely. I promise to burn for you, Kalira replied, to be your fire when the cold threatens, to be your warmth when the world grows dark, to fight beside you, to build beside you, to love you with everything I am. There were no ceremonial words from elders, no ancient rituals, just two people binding themselves to each other by choice, not by destiny or tradition or pack law. And when they sealed it with a kiss, Kalira felt something shift inside her, a bond forming, but different from anything she'd expected. Not a chain, not an obligation, a partnership, a choice made and remade with every breath. The celebration went long into the night, but eventually, Kalira and Darian slipped away to the privacy of his chambers. Our chambers now, he corrected when she mentioned it. Our chambers, she agreed. They stood together in the quiet, just breathing, just existing in the same space without crisis or danger or death hanging over them. I keep expecting something to go wrong, Kalira admitted. For this to be temporary, for it to fall apart like everything else in my life has. It won't, because we won't let it. Darian pulled her close. This is real, Kalira. This is ours, and I will fight anyone who tries to take it from us. Even Corvin? Especially Corvin. Speaking of which, he hesitated. Word will reach Blackwood territory soon. About the curse breaking. About you becoming my Luna. He'll respond. Probably not kindly. Let him. I'm not afraid of Corvin Blackwood anymore. He doesn't get to define who I am or what I'm worth. I know exactly what I'm worth now. And what's that? Everything. Darian laughed and spun her around, both of them falling onto the bed in a tangle of limbs and laughter and joy. For the first time in months, Kyalira felt at peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because she'd chosen this, built this, fought for this, and it was hers. News of the curse breaking spread through the northern territories like wildfire. Pacts that had avoided the Frostborn for years suddenly sent emissaries seeking alliances. Trade routes opened, old grudges began to thaw, and Corvin Blackwood sent a formal letter demanding a meeting. Kalira read it with a mixture of amusement and irritation. He wants to discuss the political ramifications of recent events, by which he means he wants to yell at me for embarrassing him. You don't have to go, Darian said. You don't owe him anything. I know, but I want to. I want him to see what he threw away, what he could have had if he'd been brave enough to choose me. So 3 weeks after breaking the curse, Kalira rode back to Blackwood territory, but this time she wasn't alone. Darian rode beside her, along with a full honor guard of Frostborn warriors. They met Corvin at the border in a neutral clearing between territories. He looked the same, strong, confident, every inch the alpha. But when he saw Kyalira, something flickered across his face. Regret. Recognition. Loss. Too little, too late. Kyalira, he said formally. You look well. I am well. Better than I've been in years, actually. His eyes flicked to Darian, hostility barely concealed. I hear congratulations are in order. You've claimed her. She claimed me, actually, Darian corrected. That's how partnerships work. Corvin's jaw tightened. I didn't ask to meet so we could trade barbs. I wanted to discuss the alliance between our packs. There is no alliance, Kalira interrupted. There's a truce. A mutual agreement not to kill each other. But we're not allies, Corvin. We're not friends. We're barely civil. That could change. If you came back, I'm not coming back. Ever. This is my home now. The Frostborn pack is my family. Darian is my mate. That's not going to change because you suddenly decided you made a mistake. I didn't make a mistake. I don't care about Celine. I don't care about your choices. I only came here to make one thing perfectly clear. You don't get to define me anymore. You don't get to make me feel small or inadequate or like I wasn't enough. Because I know now that I've always been enough. You were just too blind to see it. Corvin stared at her, something broken in his expression. I never meant to hurt you. Yes, you did. You hurt me publicly and deliberately because you were too much of a coward to be honest. But you know what? I'm glad you did. Because it forced me to become who I was always meant to be, someone stronger, someone fiercer, someone who doesn't need your approval or anyone else's. She turned her horse around. We're done here. Don't contact me again. As they rode away, Darian leaned over and whispered, that was incredibly satisfying to watch. It felt pretty good to say. Think he'll cause problems? Probably. But we'll handle it. Together. Together, Darian agreed. They returned to Frostborn territory as the sun set, painting the snow in shades of gold and red. As they passed through the gates, the pack gathered to welcome them home. Children ran alongside their horses, laughing. Warriors called out greetings. Elders nodded with respect. This was home. This was family. This was everything Kalira had been looking for without knowing it. That night, she stood on the ramparts with Darian, looking out at the territory they would protect together. Do you ever regret it? He asked, leaving everything behind. Kalira thought about her mother's final words, about the pendant warm against her throat, about the fire that lived inside her, no longer buried or hidden, but blazing free. No, she said. I don't regret any of it, because every choice I made, every battle I fought, every moment I thought I might break, it led me here, to you, to this, to who I was always meant to become. And who's that? She summoned fire, letting it dance across her fingers, beautiful and deadly and completely under her control. A woman who burns, she said. A Luna who fights. A wolf who refuses to be tamed. A fire bear who rewrote her own fate. Darian pulled her close, his warmth, real, human warmth, wrapping around her. I love every version of you, he said. The one you were, the one you are, the one you're still becoming. Good, because I'm still figuring that out. We'll figure it out together. And they did. Over the months and years that followed, Kalara and Darian built something unprecedented in the Northern Territories, a pack united not by fear or tradition, but by choice. They opened their borders to outcasts and refugees, to anyone who needed a second chance. They trained fire bears when they appeared, teaching them to embrace their power rather than hide it. They forged alliances with former enemies, choosing peace over perpetual conflict. And when challenges came, and they always did, Kalara met them with fire and fury and the absolute certainty that she belonged exactly where she was. She never forgot her mother's final words, never forgot the promise she'd made. She lived bravely, choosing to stand when everything in her wanted to run, choosing to fight when giving up would have been easier. And in doing so, she became more than just a Luna. She became a legend, the fire wolf who broke an ancient curse, the rejected mate who built a kingdom from ashes, the woman who refused to let anyone else define her worth. Years later, when young wolves asked her how she did it, how she survived rejection and loss and impossible odds, she would smile and say, I stopped waiting for someone to save me. I stopped asking for permission to be who I was. I just burned. And when the world tried to put me out, I burned brighter. It was the truth, and it was enough.